Good morning, everyone. We'll start the Commissioners meeting for April 17th, my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, David.
Happy birthday.
Another year older, another year smarter, I hope. First item on the agenda is public input. Anybody? Yes, sir.
Good morning. How are you, Commissioners?
Morning.
Recent activities, of course, we all know about Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And all I can suggest is it's too easy to sit in front of the boob tube and take in what they're giving us. I'm not so trusting, and I suggest everybody else not be so trusting, and maybe resort to private news media, privately owned, not the corporate big wheels, and put the effort into finding the truth, or at least getting closer to it. Because if the communities keep listening to the pre-programmed news media, then they're going to be led astray.
Yeah.
And it can be very dangerous if we're not paying attention to what's really going on.
Okay. We'll take that under advisement. We're here to talk about county business,
but
okay?
this is also public, and this is
Okay.
why I'm making this point, because it's very important.
Okay.
I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else public input?
So you can make sure 10, I left them down.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Does the county have any control over county lines? I know the towns have, from town to town, they do their own survey. Does a county like Stratford County and Carroll County do a survey on the county?
We need to redo boundary lines, yes.
There's a sign missing down in Union. It's been down for quite a while, and mysteriously it has been taken away. It's missing.
Say that again?
A sign has been missing, a county town line, Middleton, Union.
Oh.
And it's been down for quite a while, and I questioned that. I wanted to know whether there was a dispute with the person.
I'm not sure that we do that. I think that's a state between county lines. It's a sign that's down, and the state would have put that up, I believe.
I drove by, well, what happened is there was a dispute because the guy had his property in Union, and he said part of the stuff was over in Middleton, which is in Stratford County.
Oh.
And all of a sudden the sign pops up missing.
Oh.
And there's your argument again. Where's the county? So somebody wanted to come over to Carroll County, and they said, well, the line's up the road there. I know where it is. But I just thought I'd throw that in for...
Okay.
Because I think that it's kind of important. The town has to go up to a whole survey, spend money, find out where that line is. It's been gone for about a year.
Really?
And I think I mentioned it to the selectmen. And
good, thank you.
That's all I got to...
Yep. Melissa, you had your hand up.
I had a question about the commissioner's email in the computer downstairs. Does anyone check that?
I think
that all the commissioners check it now.
Yeah. I don't.
I don't.
Checking.
Okay, so there's 2 out, so not all 3. So Commissioner Kenney, do you check that email?
I check emails, yeah.
How often?
Did you send something that we needed to respond to? Yes?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
I have. In the past, well, I'm still not familiar with what the system is supposed to be. We were told that if we have right-to-know request or any type of thing, to send it to that one, and that one would be checked regularly so that we could, keep a track of what goes in and out of the commissioner's office and to make sure you're all aware. But when we send things there, there's no response.
Yep.
Or none of the things seem to be acted on in a meeting, so I don't think anyone's checking it really, or at least not regularly. So
The 2 of us just admitted we don't.
So anything that comes...
What are we doing?
Anything that comes to me, send it to Kathy Gary.
Yeah.
I'm saying the same thing to any attorneys, because attorneys call me at home. They can't get me. If they call Kathy Gary can normally get me and get the message to me straight. So I would rather have anybody that wants to contact me. If they can't contact me, find me at home, then call Kathy Gary and she'll find me.
I'm
Okay.
checking the email if I'm here at the county.
Okay.
So I did check it last week.
Melissa, when you open it up, there's literally hundreds of emails on there. Everybody that sends something around this county copies the commissioners. And plus the first month and a half, the system wasn't working. And I just never got in the habit of doing it. When people email when you're at home, I answer. I would assume that I would rather have, as David said, send it to Kathy Gary and she can tell us, or copy out the important ones, and we can take care of it.
And
Especially if you have a right to know request, I think you can send it to the office and the commissioners. If we're not here, she can check it and act on it.
Okay. My next question is, where is the recording secretary?
I don't know.
We don't have a recording secretary anymore because we're looking for a recording secretary who can do public and non-public minutes. And she doesn't want to do non-public minutes.
She actually resigned last week.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we need someone taking notes here today,
You taking notes?
Collects
It is
job.
recorded, yeah.
On the matter of non-public minutes, Commissioner Kenney announced February 20th that she was tired of people harassing her about the minutes, and so she wasn't going to take non-public minutes anymore. And since then, I would guess you've probably had at least 10 non-public sessions?
No, not that many.
You half a dozen?
We have some.
Sometimes you have 2, sometimes you have 1, but usually every week you have at least 1, so.
Some of them are legal consultation.
And 1 week you didn't have a meeting at all, but you met in non-public, so.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard you approve any non-public meeting minutes during your meetings, so has anybody done them?
Okay, they were all approved and sealed during the non-public session. We can do it either way. We can do it during the session, or we can do it in a public session later.
Yeah.
If we have a certain number of days to do it, we do it into the non-public session, so that we're covered.
Okay, and that's regarding sealing them, though. Has
Right.
anybody
Yes,
actually
I'll seal.
physically written them? Are they on file, like minutes, or,
When the minute taker is coming, she's going to do it, the new one.
okay, but what's happened for the last 2 months?
I, for one, haven't seen any.
I haven't either. Do we have, we
So-
have
No,
non-public comment?
Where's the recording of what happened at those meetings?
I have the recording, and the new minute takers will get it, and she will type it.
Okay.
She will do public and non-public minutes.
As Commissioner Kenney has said, some of those sessions were between attorney and us. So those minutes would not have been taken. Some, okay?
I guess it's okay, it'll have to be. Thank you.
Okay? Damon?
I was just wondering if the commission's updated the job ad for the HR director.
That has been sent out, and the deadline is this Friday. We have had several people that have sent an application in. That's all I can tell you. We won't know until next week, because the deadline is Friday.
The deadline is this coming Friday, or,
This Friday, this coming Friday.
and
We'll be looking at the applications next week and probably bringing people into interview.
and these applications are based on the job description that Representative Cordelli had such a big problem with. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know what his problem is, but his problem was the announcement or the advertisement in the paper,
Right.
not the job description.
Well, the advertisement on the website. Isn't that the same thing as the job description? Or the qualifications, rather?
Probably, yeah.
I mean, there's no other place where it says must have a master's or higher qualifications than what was stated in the...
I think I talked about that last week. Were you here last week?
I was.
Okay. Then the question was answered. The delegation doesn't pay enough money to have a person that we should get that's qualified. $50,000 for somebody who, we were fortunate enough to have somebody who had an attorney's degree.
Specializing in personnel.
Yeah, we were lucky to get her. You know, hopefully we'll get somebody else who's qualified. If not, we'll have to settle for whatever we can get for $50,000 until the delegation wants to give us more money to put in that position. We've asked for it in the past, and they've always said, not this year. So I'm not sure when that year is going to come up, when they're going to increase that salary item.
I think
Okay.
the start is 50,000, and then later it is like 58. So it is 58,000.
Any other further comment?
I have 2 questions on the HR position. Did the commissioners ask the delegation for more money for that position? Because isn't
Not
that
this
where,
year, but
that's
we
where
have
it
in the
starts,
past.
right?
We have in the past.
Okay. And last week, Mr. Brown brought up a concern about the way that the receptionist job or administrative assistant job was filled. One thing that was talked about was posting in-house first.
Yep.
And then if the applicants aren't there, then you would go outside of
Yep.
here. Was the HR position posted in-house before
Yes,
it
it
was
was.
advertised outside? Are you sure?
We didn't advertise outside, we posted inside. We had 2 applicants. I believe we had 3 applicants, 1 backed out.
Well, now I'm
And we
speaking about,
interviewed
She's
2.
talking about
I think she's
now I'm
talking
speaking about the
something.
HR.
Oh, the HR person.
Yeah, we've established how the other one was filled, but the HR position, was that advertised in-house first?
No.
Okay.
Melissa, there'll only be 1 or 2 people inside
Nice.
here that would be qualified to do the job, so we send it out in public and we'll interview everybody at the...
Anybody in-house can apply.
Okay, because apparently there were only 1 or 2 people in-house that were qualified to do that other job, so.
No, there were a lot that were qualified, but only 2 applied.
Okay.
Or 3 applied and 1 backed out.
Okay?
Can I have some papers? Since we're not really clear on, until today, where to send our right-to-know requests, I have some
Yeah,
that
right to know.
I've rather printed and
I hope they're not all different ones.
and also a memo about use of facility with an attachment of Ossipee's policy and procedure and application, so that, just as an example of what towns do.
Boy, they are different. Are each one of these different, Melissa?
They are. Yep. And I would just ask that the commissioners, whatever the procedure ends up being, that it is required by the law that there's a response in writing within 5 days if the information can't be provided. And I would just ask that you adhere to that policy or that law, so we can kind of keep track of things.
You read those?
Is that a different one?
Huh?
Didn't we all get a copy?
No, they're all
You made 3
different.
copies?
No, they're all different.
Huh? All of them?
Yep.
And you expect it back in right away?
Well, the law just says 5 days, or respond in writing why it can't, so even a simple note saying it can't be provided or when it can be would be helpful.
These are all right-to-know requests what you have.
Yes.
Did you submit it to, did you say that, did you send it to the commissioners email?
I didn't, because
Oh, okay.
I wasn't getting responses, so I just kind of kept a list and then just printed them all off at once and brought them in. So I wasn't sure what to do with them.
Anybody else got public input? Mr. Brown?
Non-public minutes have to be sealed in public.
No,
Yes.
no.
Yep.
Well, we disagree on that one.
Well, I believe if you read the law, it's in the law that that's the way the RSA states.
I've asked that question to a couple of attorneys, and they say you can do it either way.
How is the public supposed to know whether it's sealed or not if they're sealed in non-public, because non-public is non-public? So the public will never know whether they were sealed.
Public can ask.
That's why they should be sealed in public session.
Anything further? From anybody? If not, then we'll move into Howard.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I have a few things for you this morning. First off, noting that census is 102 with 9 skilled, so our skilled percentage is staying right up there, which is very favorable.
Good.
And I have 2 purchase requests for you. The first for a carpet machine was budgeted for $3,500. Bob Murray went out for 3 different bids. And the bids received ranged from $2,550 to $2,900. And while all the equipment specified was comparable, it was not identical. There are 2 Florida companies and 1 New Hampshire company that bid. It is Bob's recommendation, with which I concur, that the best interest of the county would be served by awarding the bid to New England Truck Mount of Pelham, New Hampshire, for a newer model at a cost of $2,900 delivered.
And it was budgeted for?
$3,500.
Yep.
So it's on the budget, and we did do the competitive bidding.
Okay. We ought to have copies of those 3 bids.
And I have that here.
Okay.
So I will leave that with you, or I can produce it now. This is
Go ahead, Commissioner Babson.
Before you purchase it, Howie, I would think it would be prudent to get the name of 2 or 3 or 4 people that may have purchased the machine from these people and call them up and see how they work.
Okay. Confirm with other users. It could well be that Bob's done that, but if he hasn't, it's certainly a reasonable thing to do.
It doesn't require anything special, does it? As far as,
We're not gonna find out, we need a 5,000-gallon water tank attached to the side of the building to
Nope,
fill it or anything.
this is complete without,
Okay.
without.
and it doesn't take a special product to
No
to do
special
the cleaning.
soaps or,
I imagine it will, for some of the functions of extraction and things. But those would be usable, I mean, those would be the usual and customary, custodial supplies.
It does say, including $200 of products of your choice below, or a free 2-gallon electric sprayer as demonstrated on his visit. So he's been here already? Do you know?
The supplier came up and demonstrated.
They did.
And so they've seen the equipment, and this equipment is a slightly better model than the other 2 that were quoted from Florida.
did the distributor for the 2 Florida companies, they must have somebody up this way, did they come in and give a demonstration?
Not to my knowledge. I think the only demonstration was from the outfit in Pelham.
Okay.
What gets to be a challenge is that oftentimes distributors will actually give exclusive regional areas, so that there is probably, for a machine like this, we're talking about the Pelham guy being the only regional distributor.
Well, I was thinking about the other 2, if they had regional distributors that.
It's essentially the same machine, but a slightly lesser model of the same machine.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go
could
ahead.
I make a suggestion?
Yep.
Perhaps we put this aside till next week too. We all can have a chance to read this,
Okay.
rather than sit here and all read it while we should be conducting business.
You got another purchasing,
I do. Now, even though this isn't subject to RSA 28.8, it's a major enough service contract, the thought that it should, yeah, I know that you've expressed interest in reviewing all major contracts, even if it's not of equipment.
Right.
This being for HVAC, which is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning service contract for all the units. We have over 150 units, next door. Was budgeted for $17,000. 3 bids were solicited by Bob. 2 were received and ranged from a low of $15,423 to another of $15,627. So both were very comparable. It's Bob's recommendation, and again, I agree that it go to Train of Bedford, and I can give you that proposal.
Mr. Chairman, Jason, in my conversation with him this morning,
Yeah.
he wants to have Train also, and so that we're got one supplier for both facilities.
Maybe we can get a better deal.
And maybe we can get a better deal.
That's Train.
Yep. And this is Train, so we'll
Okay.
check that out.
No, it certainly makes sense if somebody's coming on site to be able to service. I mean, even when you're talking about, now this is prepaid, there isn't any transportation charge, but oftentimes people are paying just to show up. And if they can serve multiple buildings within the same campus.
Well, yours is 15, and I believe Jason's was 6.
Well, it could, on the chance that there's any any mutual savings, it's well worth exploring.
Okay.
The other request is regarding resident lifts. You asked me to see if there were any opportunity for securing, a lesser price if we went out to buy, if you wanted to use bond money, and if we were to buy a bulk. Was able to speak with the president of the company from who we got the great deal in refurbished lifts from, and was able to negotiate a further discount if we wanted to. So instead of $1,500 each, which was a savings of over $1,000 from new, he is prepared, if we were to buy in bulk, to go down to $1,350, which is a 10% savings.
And for how many?
How many units?
That's with a minimum of 40.
40.
And that 40 would be an expense of $54,000. This isn't budgeted money, so this would only make sense if it were to be considered a use of the bond money that's still available. And of course, it's, if we wanted to complete all rooms, 75 more units, that's an expense of $101,000. That's
How
probably.
many do we have now? 25?
We have 25, 26. We could readily use, within 3 years, we'd be using the 40, if not sooner. So 40 would not be too many, if it made sense to use.
And these are
them.
all portable, right? They can be moved from one room to another?
Exactly. All the tracks, you did a wonderful job in having all the pre-installation, the things that would be difficult to do afterwards are all done. All the track, all the power strips are already in place.
Okay, we'll have to take a look at the bond money and see what we can do with that.
Other things that I have for you, last week, I'm trying to see if I have his name. Ross Myers was here talking to you about websites being available for elected officials. Well, I talked to him afterwards, and he and his wife are prepared to not only for elected officials, but for certain not-for-profit organizations, including Mountain View, and the affiliates of the county system, to create, design, and host a website for no cost. And with your permission, we'd like to go forward with doing that. There's no cost involved. There would be a subsequent cost in future years of hosting only at about $12 to $18 a month, which would be the same as what would be paid anywhere, but with absolutely no obligation.
Okay.
So it seems like a wonderful opportunity to.
And we have full control over it?
Full control over it, and no obligation to stay with them or to continue in any way.
All right. What do you think, members of the board?
I think there is already a website, a county website, where you can put almost anything on it. The different departments are already there on the site. And you have Facebook.
Right. We'd be linking with the county website. What the county website doesn't allow us full access to do is to create a staff member page with a password for staff to be able to get information, and to readily post graphics. What people want are albums and photos and things that, for families especially, that are spread across the country. And it would also link to Facebook. So it would enhance our awareness. It's where we would post. It's also where, quite literally, that Rob could post menus at no cost. So residents and their families could see what's going on, activity schedules, things that are not easily done within the county website.
I thought that the minutes were on the county website, because I asked a while ago for it, if we post the minutes on the
Excuse me,
county
Commissioner
website.
Kenney, could you speak up? I got whatever's going on here outside my ear.
I believe that the minutes from the cafe are on the county website. I asked a while ago for it, if it can be posted, and they say they would take care of it. So the minutes are not on the county website?
I'm not aware, now I could be mistaken, I'm not
I
aware
have
that the
to check it
menus
out.
are there. The
I thought the
newsletters
menus
are
were
there.
there, but I
That
could be
is
wrong.
what,
And I'm not sure about that.
oh, we have Rob here, maybe he
Rob.
knows the answer.
Question for you. Menus on our website?
Yes.
Huh?
I haven't looked at it this week, but
Okay.
Lisa Howard has been posting it.
Okay.
And also
That's good.
the cafe
Yeah.
menu, is that what you're referring to?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, thank you.
Well, what's the board feel?
I'll make a motion that we take up, the gentleman's name is Miller,
Myers,
Myers?
Ross and Tara Sue Myers.
Myers, I would make a motion that we accept his offer, at no cost, and try it for a year until we have to pay for the website, and if it's worked out well, then we can pay for the website.
Asha?
I think we already have the county website and Facebook. If we have no website at all, I
Yeah,
think then we should,
I know, I'm waiting for a second.
then I think we
No, we
should
will
take
discussion.
advantage of it, but
Mm.
there is already a website.
There is.
Do you want to second it or not?
No,
All right, then I'll second it for discussion. Do you have any further discussion on it? Seeing none?
I do.
Go ahead.
I think that anytime we can get more exposure, we are a public entity, and the more exposure we can get, especially if it's positive, and we hope there'll be no negative, then it was well worth the effort.
You know, speaking to that, in the newsletter, I put out a request, kind of fishing, if anybody knew about any kind of golf cart that could be donated. Have already received a response from one gentleman who is...
A golf cart?
A golf cart, for residents to use, for
Oh.
sunshine rides.
Oh.
It's a wonderful way to get residents out. One gentleman has already called, he's found two, and he thinks he has found the person that will actually pay for them to have them donated, or have one donated. So that exposure, even if it's through a newsletter, I'm thinking if we could amplify that through the website or through Facebook, has some tremendous potential.
Where are we going to store these carts?
Well, it's only going to be one, and it's interesting. That's the second time today that question has come up. That's actually going to be an issue, because we need to keep it out of the weather. Probably the best option for keeping it close by would be under some kind of a temporary storage, kind of like one of these rhino tents type of thing, out of sight, probably near the annex, somewhere connected to the old building. If we have the good fortune of being able to receive such a donation.
Well, as long as we have the old building, there must be access wide enough that you could drive the thing in and park it in there for the winter, isn't there?
That's my hope. That would be ideal, but of course, I'm thinking that's not going to be a permanent solution, because if things go forward as they should, that wouldn't be the permanent solution, but that could be a welcome temporary solution.
And we take the liability, they drive them themselves, the resident?
No, it'd always be staff driven.
Okay. Okay.
We wouldn't want to risk that.
I think it's a pretty good idea. Anybody else? I'll make a motion that we accept the donation of a golf cart for nursing home purposes.
We don't have it yet, so
No.
it's
If it's possible,
prospective.
it's a donation.
Correct. So it's in process, but it's not definite yet.
Okay.
I'll second it, David.
Any further discussion on it? If not, all those in support of the motion say aye.
Yeah.
Aye. So voted then. Go ahead.
And you still have a vote before you on the website. It's been moved and
Yes.
seconded to.
I'm
You
sorry.
didn't vote, we didn't vote on
I'm
it.
sorry. All those in support of the website, joining the website out of Union or out of Wakefield?
Out of Wakefield.
Out of Wakefield. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay.
Opposed.
Other items that I have for you have been working with the affiliates to get information about the sick time policies and have that summary just about ready for you in terms of, not sick time, in terms of
Episode?
well,
No.
we're working with the committee in-house on that, but you also asked about meal policies, staff meal policies in other county homes, and I think I have responses from 8 or 7 of the other county homes, so only really just missing 2, so that's moving along. Trail Committee did not meet because of weather, but did speak with the Eagle Scout candidate last night, and will be working with Will to see if we can't get his involvement sooner instead of later.
Yeah.
So that's, I'm hoping to get him in either later this week or next week to take a look.
How are you on that subject? I get word from Wakefield that they have about 100 tons of crushed glass that we can use for underlayment for the path if we want to. It's my understanding that the federal government now on any federal project is accepting it as a
Base?
base because of its low coefficient of expansion, and you can pack it and it drains. So, you know, you wouldn't want to have it on the top, I wouldn't think, but you could put it down and have gravel or stone dust on top of it, or however you do it. But my question is, do you know anybody that's a civil engineer that knows anything about this subject? Or does anybody know anything?
Subject of glass?
Well, the person who would be designing the trail, do they know whether glass is acceptable or whether it will even work? Let's not get it down and find out it doesn't work.
Yeah. You can call up Warren Wynn down there at the landfill. He has done a lot of that. It's tumbled.
Yep.
And it's not sharp. It's not sharp to where it would cut into or anything. They tried it down at the Wakefield Food Pantry on the driveway. I seen it dumped down there. That's something they're experimenting with. And you might be able to keep an eye on that for a couple of months, a year, and see how the drainage is.
Was it right on the top, Ruben, or did they put anything on top of
It's on the
it?
bottom. And then they went over it with gravel on the top.
Okay,
So it's more or less a sub-underlayment.
so, that's right, yeah.
So if the water, actually, I believe if the water goes down, it's more porous, the water will be less muddy
Thank
on
you.
the top.
How many tons to a yard with glass? I'm
Bet
trying
your
to think.
glass is
I don't know, you're the one that knows how many feet you need to put a flagpole
know.
underground.
Well, that
You ought
I
to know how
know.
much, you ought to know how much glass weighs.
Because I can think in terms of yards, but I can't think in terms of tonnage. So I'm trying to think if whether 100 ton is a lot or a little. But I say that not knowing how many yards we would need. But you start talking about an 8-inch subcourse, you can go through quite a few yards.
I think glass, to me, is heavy. So I don't think there's an awful lot in, would you say 100 ton
Yeah,
or 10 ton?
100 ton,
100 ton.
and it's free.
See, my only concern would be, and I'm not a civil engineer, is that you can't, unlike gravel, bank run gravel, you can't compact it at all. And I guess the real test is, what happens with frost when you have a material where water can collect around it? And that's what I'm not,
But it
that's
can
what we need a
compact
civil
it. It's
engineer.
basically, when they're through crunching it up, it's basically sand. I mean, it's that fine. You can take it in your hand and go like this, and you'd never cut yourself.
Oh, and no, in that case, if it's not like
Very,
marbles.
very fine.
I was just, I was envisioning it being marble size.
Oh, no, no. The examples I've seen of it, they brought it in when they were talking about it in the legislature one day on dumps, and it's very, very fine.
Oh, I mean, if it's being used instead of sand, it can be compacted. That'd be.
My
that'd be
guess
no
is
reason
it
why
can
not.
be, perhaps not as tight as sand, but part of the reason that you keep it is it does drain.
This is from the Wakefield
The
landfill?
Yep. They take it in from all the towns.
They deliver it?
What do you want them to do, lay it out there for us too?
Yeah.
Down for us?
Yeah.
The tax rate.
And that is all I have for you in terms of,
That's something to bring up at the
trail
trail committee.
that's a real, it's an opportunity.
It's something to look at. I mean,
And then the next thing, we need to look at brick dust or whatever the surface is going to be.
Yes, it's done, different theories, asphalt perhaps being best, but stone dust being a wonderful acceptable option, because that can be compacted down pretty tightly.
Do you know how wide this path's gonna be?
That's the second time that's come up today. I would like to see it be 8 foot wide, recognizing that that might be a little ambitious. But
It ought to be 6 feet wide anyway, I think. It needs to be wide enough so that we can get a vehicle on it to maintain it.
and 6 foot is
But we
getting,
probably can't take the vehicle over the bridge. I don't know.
no, and that's why it's all gonna have to be, because, you know, how the bridge will get designed around, if we have an 8 foot wide, because we don't wanna create something that's tempting. I mean, so that's gonna be, of course, I was thinking in terms of, well, 8 foot wide makes it real easy for a golf cart, although a golf cart would fit easily at 6 foot too.
Yeah, yeah.
Melissa just said the one they put in Effingham is 8 foot.
Is 8 feet? Okay.
Probably 90% of it's 8 feet, and then there are a couple sections where it's 6, just through like a little swampy area, but
Mhm.
the majority of it's 8 feet.
Okay.
And that's typically to allow oftentimes service vehicles for maintaining the edges and
Yeah.
and roadways.
And that one has stone dust, if anybody wants to go see what stone dust looks like after 6 years.
Do you know where it came
It's
from?
like concrete.
You know where it came from, Melissa?
The stone dust that we got, or, I'm not
No.
sure, I could find that out for you.
That'd be good.
It was donated.
That's
Donated.
gonna be, four-wheelers won't be able to drive over there. Will that be restricted for snowmobiles and four-wheelers, RV?
I would think so. We haven't talked about that yet.
Well, I don't think that'd be right if somebody was out there and they can race them by with an RV if it was open.
I would think that the trail would be used for cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, probably not for
Bicycles,
bicycle, maybe, yeah?
mountain bikes, something
Yeah.
like that.
The problem with snow machine is that with the spiked treads, the bridge would get beat up.
Yeah.
And so it'd be good not to have snowmobiles on the
No,
bridge portion.
They shouldn't have them. I don't think they should.
Okay, got anything else?
That's all that I have for you.
Okay, what about the discussion on a public hearing on admission policy? Rob, are you involved in this too? I see your name on here.
Oh, he's in here because he's gonna be the first one to do with, remember John Daniel said that we should have a policy, a procedure, and know where the security of the money and handling is.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what Rob's gonna do, because he's got the cafe.
Okay. Rob, you wanna? Isn't that
Well,
something-
we're gonna do the public hearing part first.
Okay, public hearing.
Now, were you planning on this being the public hearing or to discuss, I understood from just to discuss scheduling of the public hearing for
Yes.
admission policy. Because, you know, the intention was that we have a tentative policy that has been reviewed.
Is that the version 2, or is this another one?
It must be version 2, I didn't bring it with me, it'd be the last one, but we'd have copies of revised.
Well, how are you gonna go to the employees with our last revision
Correct.
and talk to them about it and get their input, and then we were gonna have the public hearing, so that's
Correct.
where we are today.
And I have that input, which is, there was some constructive, criticism in terms of things, but mostly editorial that we could change, but they're in agreement because essentially, having started with that convoluted policy, we've really reduced it down to, in essence, being county only and going with those in greatest need. That's the essence of it, and the policy builds upon that central core. But not in quite such a convoluted process as it did before.
Well, I'd like to see our last revision, and then I would like to see what the employees have suggested. We asked for their input, we should listen to it, and without seeing it, we haven't listened to it.
Well, it was mostly editorial, but you're entitled to see whatever there is.
What do you mean it's editorial? I thought you said they had a few changes.
But mostly to correct, not the essence of the policy, but suggestions for everything from wording to things that were left out that just need to be explained more. But there's general agreement by all that what we're trying to do is essentially articulating what we've always been doing. It doesn't really represent a change so much as it represents clarification and making it clear to the community what we're doing. Because right now it's kind of invisible, and when it's not visible, it becomes suspicious to some people. And people will say, in fact, I see the biggest reason for the policy is to make clear to the community that what we're doing is organized and straightforward, and it's not underhanded and it's not political, but that it's really based on county residents and need. And the policy articulates how that need is really in three different ways: based on skilled, based on Alzheimer's and memory support, and based on general admission. And that's the part I think that gets most often confused. Somebody will say, why couldn't, I've been on the list for 3 years, why aren't I next? Well, sometimes you are when you've been on the list for 3 years, but sometimes if you're not in greatest need, if another Carroll County resident is in greater need at that point and you're comfortable and safe, well, who do you choose? Well, we go with the person in greatest need. And sometimes someone will say, someone came in, I know somebody came in, but they don't realize that they went downstairs instead of upstairs. They don't realize they went to skilled instead of someplace else. And so there's legitimate misunderstanding that I hope the policy will help clarify. But from the staff perspective, it's really articulating what we're already doing, but we never put it in writing before.
My concern is that it be based on need. I know that it's nice to have people who require skilled care because that brings in more money for us. On the other hand, if we're looking after the interest of the taxpayers or the residents of Carroll County, then I think we ought to look at the need, and I think that's where the emphasis ought to be. You explained it pretty clearly when you said based on need, depending on the eligibility, skilled care, and general admissions. I just think we ought to keep in mind that it's based on need and not necessarily on skilled care.
Correct.
That's my personal feeling. Even though we may lose money on it, I think that's what we should be doing.
And it's a tough balancing act. Jen Chiavachi, who's our admission coordinator, is constantly balancing somebody who has immediate need, from somebody who might have long-standing interest. The situation is also getting complicated by the state, and not irresponsibly so. The state has come into some nursing homes, including county homes, and essentially decertified some residents from being eligible for Medicaid based on them not needing 24-hour nursing supervision. So it isn't always a matter, some people, not very many, but some people can want to be in a nursing home who really can manage in assisted living, who can really manage with some home care. And they're not eligible medically, even though they're top on the list. We don't screen somebody at the time they put in their application. In fact, encourage people to plan ahead so they get to know us. Mm-hmm. But at the time a room comes available, they might think that mom should go in, but mom might not. They might want mom to come in, but maybe mom doesn't quite need nursing home level of care, and the state legitimately wants to hold that care for the people who absolutely need it, not who just want it or for whom it's convenient for the family, because the family is also legitimately tired of being the primary caregiver. So it does get to be complicated. Most of the people, 80–90% of the people that are on our wait list are not ready to come in today. If they were asked today, they would say no. They're planning ahead for a future that this gives them just one more option.
Okay. Any further discussion?
So when are we going to have the hearing?
When you want to have it?
Well, let's talk about what's the best time. I can't imagine we're going to have a whole bunch of people show up for a public hearing on admission to the nursing home.
Except for those that are on the list, maybe.
So maybe an early evening one?
Mm-hmm.
Which month are we looking at? We're looking at April or May?
Well, last time we had publicized it and it wasn't given enough time.
So let's do it in May.
The first week of May, the 5th through the 11th.
What night are we taking? Thursday night or Friday night?
Are you as careful with the lights in your own facility, Sheriff, as you are with ours?
How about the 7th?
Let me find-
Tuesday evening on the
Tuesday?
7th?
Then we come Wednesday morning to the meeting.
What?
And then we come Wednesday morning to the meeting.
Yeah, but this is strictly nursing
Yeah,
home.
I know. It's that night we are here.
Is that all right with everybody?
Let me just see, what are you saying, David?
The 7th of May?
It's the
7
first
o'clock?
Tuesday. Yep, that'll work.
You know how to operate that thing?
Yeah. Not as good as my 3-year-old granddaughter, but I can do it.
Neither. Is that all right with you?
So
Gotcha.
May 7th? How?
7 o'clock on
7
the
o'clock?
7th?
Yeah, that's fine.
May 7th?
May 7th it is. Where would you like to have it? Here?
We'll have it at the nursing home.
At the nursing home.
Then that's,
And I think prior to that, if you could get us information on the staff input and the latest revision, mine is Vision 2, and I think it was dated October.
I think there's.
So there must be another one
I think there's
since
another one
then.
since then. That's
Okay.
actually much more abbreviated.
Okay.
And 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock. Okay? Anything else?
Is the one on the website the most current one, or is that a different one?
I don't know
I don't
that
know.
there is one on the website, is there?
I've seen one.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that it's not.
Debbie, is it on the website, do you know? Policy for admission at the nursing home?
I believe there was one, sir, but I can say with all due sincerity, I have not posted one in quite a long time, so I do not believe that it's current.
Okay. Well, maybe we ought to get the current
Maybe we
one
can put it.
then.
Yeah, but this one, it wouldn't be right to put a proposed one out there. Now, maybe if there's an old one, then it might be there, but I wouldn't put one that hasn't been approved by the commissioner on there.
Well, if we
Well-
say it is a draft or a proposal, we can just put
Come
it
to the
up.
meeting and learn more.
See, I'm always afraid when people see something, they remember whatever it is that they
Yeah.
read, whether or not it's been approved or not, so I'm always a little gun shy of that.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
here. It's on there still.
What's that?
It's on there still.
As a draft,
It posted in February.
okay.
Okay.
I'll
So
look
it's
at
May
that.
7th at 7
May
o'clock?
7th at 7, come in with copies, probably a dozen or so.
Definitely.
And if you can, before then, share with us what the staff has said about it.
I'll get that right to
Okay.
you.
All right, very good.
Thank you,
Thank you.
thank you.
Are you in with Rob, or, no?
Well, Perhaps
Well,
you should listen.
Yeah.
Certainly want to be
All right, listen. Rob, come on up, please. Well, I think we're talking about what the subcommittee did on last week. No, it was this Monday, past Monday. They want to know, as well as we, whether the cafe is making money, costing money, and how are you keeping track of the time involved and your personnel at the cash register? What happens to the money? Who takes care of it? Where is it deposited, and so forth? That whole system.
Well, David?
Right.
excuse me.
Go ahead.
I forgot when I spoke to Rob this morning, there are two different issues here. They
Okay.
wanted to know the business portion of the cafe, whether it was making money.
Mhm.
Mr. Daniel, when he was here, suggested that we have we have a written policy for how the money is handled in the security, so.
Okay.
It's, once we collect the money, we need to know Rob's steps to getting it to the bank.
So we'll hold off on that one,
Yeah.
right? So, your first point was?
The first point was the subcommittee was interested in knowing whether the cafe is making money or not, and how we were gonna apportion the time of someone that works in the kitchen and then is out collecting the money, and I don't know how you're gonna do it, but.
Of course, the largest customer base that we have are the free meals, so there's no income for those. That's, you know, and it's accounted by a cash register department, so each person that receives a free meal is run through the register, so we have an accountability for each meal period that then goes to the business office at the nursing home.
So you could actually give us the count of free meals per day?
Yes.
I'm not asking for one, I don't think, but you.
I have the policies. If you wanted to see it, I brought the cafe price list with the department and the PLU, the price lookup for each item that is sold or accounted for, and the fact that the free meal, you know, being an entry in the register. And then what our daily sales report looks like.
So when they punch it in the register, they punch it in 2 milks?
No, a free meal, you know, and the free meal consists of a beverage, an entree, side, dessert,
Okay.
so a complete meal.
Okay. So
And
it's
that's by
punched in as a
union
meal.
contract, right?
A free meal, yes.
Yeah.
That's by
Yes.
union contract?
Yeah.
So I have to come up with a method to count meals so that I can get productivity. And I define a meal as the industry standard in our benchmark system to compare costs with other facilities, and it's $2.25 value equals a meal.
Okay. So when the cash register, they punch in the free meal?
Yes. Just so we have a,
Okay.
you know, we have a customer count
And
of
then
how many free
and
meals.
then there's also, when they pay cash,
Yes. And then there's a sales report that's done by meal period. So there's one for breakfast, which is very, very small, but, you know, lunch Monday through Friday, and there's a sales report that's attached to the daily sales report that looks like that, and it just gives you an accountability of what the cash is. This is the explanation of that form, and this is the current department and PLU list for that register. It's a small cash register that we use, but
Well, I think Representative McConkey's point was wrong. Getting the cost of these meals, you know, how would you do that? How could you do that?
well, you need to allocate. You allocate, you know, expense based on productivity or volume. So where meals are being produced for the nursing home residents, meals are produced for the nursing home staff, meals are produced for the cafe as a percentage of what your total meal sales are for that, or free meals for that entity, and then meals that are distributed to the Department of Corrections.
I think what they didn't say anything about corrections, they didn't say
No.
anything about free meals. All they were concerned about is the cafe paying for itself?
Yes, that's what that was Mr. McConkey's concern.
Yeah. I mean, you do have somebody at the cash register that we're paying for a couple of hours, whatever it is. And we do get the value from the meal, the cash for the meal. What I think is hard to do is, how do you account for the expense for that meal that they pay cash for? It may be purchased in bulk and not divided down into cafe and regular a regular non-paying meal. I don't
Well,
know how you do that.
remember that the labor that was allocated to the cafe was the same labor that we had in the old facility prior to the cafe.
Okay.
So we reallocated dining room hours to that cafe. So we're not running any higher labor cost than we were without the cafe.
All right, then the question would be, were we making money in the old dining room?
There was no cash sales.
No
in the
cash
old
sale.
Facility.
What I'd recommend, because it would be too simplistic if we just thought that there was no cost involved to providing a cafe meal, because the labor is already there and it'd just be the raw cost. The better way would be, and we can do it with a cash register receipt, if 20% of those sales that day were to cafe sales, non-staff meals,
Yeah.
we can allocate out 20% of our overhead, 20% of the labor. So that I think we can do it on percentages. I think what the subcommittee was having a hard time with was, well, figuring out what the true costs are. Rob is actually doing that each time he prices the meal or the item. So he's doing it on a micro basis rather than a macro basis. So that he's figured out what it costs for the raw costs and some input for the labor costs to keep the price competitive and still attractive.
Yeah.
But I bet we can come up with a report just based on a percentage between staff meals and paid meals.
One of the figures that was thrown around, and of course, one of the bigger costs is the food itself. And somebody said Rob figured 38% was the figure they said for food?
Well, generally, a restaurant prices at between 25 and 40% of the sales price is raw food cost.
Ah,
Institutionally, it's usually 50%. That's the standard rule. If you
50?
50%,
wow.
Why is it higher for an institution?
because their prices are lower. So that generally, if you went into Mass General or you went into one of the acute care facilities that
Yeah.
runs a cafeteria, they're running 50% of that sales volume is raw food cost. Generally, then 40%, maybe labor, and somewhere between 10 or 15% for direct cost, supplies, etc.
In the outside world, sometimes another method is a third, where a third is raw cost, a third is labor, and a third is overhead and profit. Most organizations, institutions, don't allocate out overhead.
Right.
So we're not charging out for the heat, the air conditioning, all the overhead,
That's there.
the debt service and everything else, so that it becomes more of a 50-50 split
Yeah.
than a third.
I think the point also is made, and we don't want to get into a lot of time spent on record keeping and figuring out
I don't
all
have
this
the labor
stuff.
for it.
No, we don't want to do that. But I think if we can show that there's money being made at the cafe, maybe that's what we are looking for.
I
What they're
think the
looking for.
direction that you should be going in is the goal of the cafe to be a standalone entity, at least breaking even, if we eliminate the free meal. You need to be looking towards that. And I just heard this morning that there's a study in terms of other counties and, whether they are or not, are not charging for a meal.
That's a
but
union contract.
It's, I mean,
Jim?
Go ahead.
If we've got to give them the free meals by the contract, which we do, why is it being charged to the cafeteria and not as a cost to the
Nursing home.
dietary, some dietary line item for the nursing home? Why are you charging,
well, it's absorbed by dietary right now, but it certainly, should, theoretically be, a credit, for, the volume that we're doing. And in that case, we're supplying, meals to, some entities that are not nursing home.
you lost me on that one, Rob.
Well, say that there are supplies that are requisitioned for, events, special events, it can be administration, it can be Department of Correction, it can be the farm, where they'll withdraw a case of coffee or, a case of cups, napkins, stirrers, sugar, cream, all of those items, that are being distributed but not being credited back to dietary as a line item.
Okay.
Nor, for that matter, is the credit from the sales being credited back to the dietary department as an offset to our expenses.
Well, Howard, you talked about a enterprise fund for the cafe.
Exactly. So that if Rob has the good fortune of selling a lot, the fact is expenses go up is not a bad thing. It's an expected thing. What an enterprise fund really measures is the net difference. And right now, Rob's income doesn't go to dining services, it goes to general income. And he runs the real problem that if he's successful, he hurts his budget. He doesn't help his budget. He can only hurt his budget by selling more. But I also agree with Commissioner Babson's thought that we need to have a line item that allocates out staff meals and assign a credit, not unlike what we do with the House of Correction, so that we can really know what our cost per resident meal is without misleading anybody. Because right now, our essentially, when we look at our resident meals, it also includes the staff meals.
Right.
And we should pull that out for record keeping. And that's something we can actually do just by assigning a value per meal. So that's, I think, as we go forward with next year's budget, we're gonna propose to you adding a number of line items. Whether or not that's a true enterprise fund or it's just a different mechanism for tracking, something needs to be done to give us usable information.
Can we put a line item in there for expense? We have a line item in there now for revenue, I believe.
Well, it doesn't show on the dietary, roll up as far as
What's the one
expense.
on the cafe? Is that expense?
Well, I don't even show a cafe line. So what I'm selling in the cafe is charged to the food account, which is the 050.
I didn't bring up my budget book, but I think you're right, David. There's a line item.
There's a line item in there for cafe. I bet it's under
Somewhere.
expense.
Alphabetical order by
I don't
size.
have it.
Because I think what the subcommittee was getting at, and what we need to do internally, and certainly for the commissioners as well, is we need to come up with a system so that from month to month, you can tell and know that we can all know whether we're gaining or losing. Even if it's an imperfect system, as long as it's something that we can replicate so that it can be consistent, so that we know that we're moving in the right direction. And I think there are some easy ways to do that without it being terribly time-consuming.
So the free meals show up
They don't.
as an expense.
We're showing them.
Somewhere in our budget.
Well, the free meal is actually, it's charged. You're seeing that expense in the 050, the food cost expense.
Okay.
Food cost and labor, but we need to pull that out as a discrete expense.
But the cafe is also in there, that expense too.
Every all the food that I buy for any entity.
I guess my thing is, how does the free meals enter into the cafe? Why is it having to do with the cafe?
That's where they're served from.
It's where they're served from.
And we have a lot more, it's better accountability now than it was in the old building where we didn't have, a separate dining facility. We were sharing a dining room with the residents before. So it was more informal. Now it's more of a formal, the employee comes down and the meal is served from a specific location. So our free meal count is much more accurate.
Well, Rob, you must have, in the institutional food business, there must be a standard that you charge off against food. 35%, 30%,
Sure,
raw costs or whatever.
absolutely.
Why is that so hard to keep track of against sales? And basically, that's a rough estimate of what Representative McConkey and I think the others were looking for.
Yeah.
That's no problem at all. If they understand the premise that the expense, is derived from, if they accept the fact that, as I said, this industry standard for what is a meal in an institutional setting is $2.25.
Right.
So that being the divisor, each employee that goes through the line, is costing us $2.25.
So that ought to be fairly simple if you have it on the tape, how many free meals you get out times $2.25. Take that away from your expense, and we should be able to show them.
Essentially,
we're
that's
breaking even, or we're making a little bit of money, and it shouldn't take you hours to do it.
However, that
we don't want to happen.
the $2.25 is a lost sale, so that should be accounted as a potential sale that we didn't get the cash for, but the county has to value that, so that if we account for meals either free or sold, the cafe certainly will be showing, break even.
Let's back up a little bit.
Interesting.
Let's say that we don't, what happens if somebody said, we're going to eliminate the cafe? What happens?
Well,
You
you
don't have a place to eat.
still have employees that are going to be expecting to get a free meal from somewhere.
But that would come out of the kitchen, wouldn't it, or
It would
the
come out of
dietary?
the same place.
Yeah.
But how it would be distributed would be up to you.
Do we need a cash register for a free meal?
Well, if you
It's
were
accountable, right?
if you were if you were only doing free meals, you need some way to account for an accurate number.
I gotta ask you a basic question, Rob. When they come through with a free meal, do Megan or somebody look at it and say, okay, you got a Coke, you got a soup, you got a sandwich, and that's $3.75, or do they just hit a free button and it doesn't show anything?
We define what the free meal is for the staff. It's not everything that we have in the cafe. It's what I decide is the free
It's a
meal.
free meal.
So what goes on your tape? $2.25
just-
every time they go through, or do you actually take a look at it as if they were paying for
It's-
it and then just say,
No, it's just a count.
just to count?
It's a count.
If a staff member buys something in addition to the free meal, it goes in as
It
a
goes
separate
on,
sale.
Right. If they buy a soda, they're paying for the soda. If they buy a yogurt or a salad, they're paying for that. If they're if they have a soup on the tray, they're buying that.
Mhm.
If they have a sandwich, they're buying
Anything in
that.
addition to what you say is a free meal?
Right, I define the free meal based on what's in the best interest of the county.
Well, I'm certainly not a budgetary expert, but it appears to me the thing we gotta do is somehow figure out how to get the free meals out of that cash register going through the cafe.
Well, I'm not sure
That's
that.
gonna skew all the other figures we have.
I would not agree with that. I think the free meal it gives you a better handle on what your expenses are because you have a solid number that you can put a value to.
Well, if you can do that and then subtract it at the end, yes, that makes sense. Because all they're interested in is whether the cafe is making money or not.
It can be
They
done.
don't, I would say they maybe don't even know who's getting, whether there's free meals or not going through.
That's right. I
The nursing home office can easily take that free meal count, which is there now, and just say, here's the value. Here's the sales value for that number of meals per week, per month, etc. And it would be a line item as a credit, as a charge sale or whatever from the cafe, and it becomes an overhead expense to the county or to the nursing home.
I think we need to have the count of the free meals somewhere, because we need to know how many free meals
And
are
we
given
do,
out
Commissioner.
every day or a week or a month. We need that figure too.
I don't think they're even looking at the free meals. I think
No.
that what they're looking at is those people that come from jury duty, come over and buy the meals, or when the sheriff comes in to buy his meal,
He
that
gets-
is recorded in the cash register. All right, so you got that figure, you can total that up by meal or by week or whatever. Then you need to put in the expense, what it costs for that girl to be there at the cash register, what you put in as a percentage of what the meal costs. Figure that in and see what the difference is. And if you're making money, that's great. If you're below money, they're not gonna eliminate the cafe because you give free meals out of the cafe.
I mean,
What you're
it's,
saying,
we're trying to build the volume of the business so that we'll break even.
the cash,
Yes,
yeah.
and I believe that we are breaking even right now.
Okay, that's what we, am I right?
Yeah,
Their idea of the cafe, meaning that somebody's coming in and buying a meal. They don't know what the free meal is.
Well, we can
I mean,
educate
I
them
was
to
ignorant
that.
too. I didn't realize that the free meal was going through the cafeteria. I thought it was a dietary or a nursing home expense.
Yeah,
I had no idea that it was going
It
through
still
the
is.
cafeteria.
Well, it is. I
It
mean,
still is, but I thought it was somehow being budgeted to either dietary or some other function at the nursing home. I didn't realize it was going through the cafeteria.
It's not being credited back, and
Yeah.
that's where, with that credit back to dietary.
I know what you're saying, but I'm not sure they're looking at the credit. They want to know whether the so-called cafe
It's making money.
that
and
we're,
losing.
that we're charging people for their food is making money or not. And if you can just do that by using whatever person is at the register, the cost of that person per hour or whatever, plus what you estimate as a percentage of the food cost, find out what the difference is. Right?
Right, but I still would want to add that line item, my biggest sales is free meal. You know, so that's a lost revenue. So if we take that as revenue, then certainly the cafe is,
It's making money.
sure.
But that's something, Rob, that can be explained if you can give us the cost versus sale and get that figure and say, okay, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, now we have to add back in
free
X
meal.
amount per meal against the number of meals that we give out free. And if you do that, this is the result.
You do the same thing with residents? They get a free meal, basically.
Well, no.
This
I
is
mean,
included.
It's
Yes,
free at $275 a day.
Yeah. Okay, all right. You know where we're coming from, I think.
One other
Okay.
thing for Howie before he leaves. Howie, last evening, that's another thing, we didn't go over reports today.
Yeah.
Last evening, we had our monthly Cooperative Extension Advisory Board meeting, and they, in cooperation with the county, put on Farm Day. Last year, the nursing home, before you got here, sold the hot dogs and the hamburgers and a little other stuff. Do you want to do it again this year on July, it's a Saturday, July 27th or 28th?
Well, good thing Rob's here, because it'd be real easy for me to say something and step right in it. Does that work out? Has that worked out well for you?
Was this the farm day?
Yeah, you
Sure.
did it for Farm Day last year.
Because I think we decided not to do it for the car show coming up, to get into the food sale business for that, but I guess I defer to Rob if it worked out, if it helped them and it worked out for us.
I believe it was done by the Friends last year. It was not a dietary event, but they bought some of the food from us.
Okay.
And they'll be meeting, Friends will be meeting this afternoon, so.
Would you ask that question? Because they clearly thought it was the nursing home that was doing it, and maybe they were confused that
Yeah,
it was.
they're
Now you
using our-
mentioned it, I remember it
using
was
our
the Friends.
equipment, yeah.
Because Chip was there,
Right.
had Flipper.
Yep.
And
Is that on a Saturday or Sunday?
Saturday.
So it's the 27th?
I think it's the 27th.
27th is a Saturday.
27th is Saturday.
27th, okay.
27th
Of
of
July.
July.
And what's the start again? It's like 8.
I have no idea.
Okay?
Yep, thank you.
Any other thing you want to bring up?
No, I think we're good.
Good breakfast this morning.
Thank you.
Great attendance, it's good to see you, and thank the three of you for coming too. That adds extra value. It takes it from being the routine to being something special, not just a change of day and setting, but having people there, new people there, different people there is always welcome.
They love the interaction, for sure.
Your staff there are, to me, extra courteous to all the residents, making sure they get their juice or their coffee or the meal. It's great to see them going around asking.
They have a good time too.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say, Mr. Chairman, is this is what, the third one we've been to? Every time I go there and I watch these poor folks and what the help does for them is just, I have more and more appreciation for the job they do every time I'm over there. They're just very attentive, very polite.
But as you saw, it's
They gotta
staff
have
from all departments too. It isn't just dining services or health
I know, it's
services.
everybody.
It's the
The
maintenance
guys
guys,
are in there
Yep.
helping.
housekeepers. It's wonderful to see.
Everyone is helping, yeah. They do really great job.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Howie, do you have any of those 501c3, the Friends of Mountain View flyers? Did they
You
leave?
had one last week.
I know it.
I don't, but
I need
I'll,
another one.
let me track down where they are, but let me write it down.
You ought to have some, I think. In case somebody comes in to donate something, it'd be good to have, just to give out.
No, let me find out. They're sitting at the front desk and I just haven't been paying attention. But that's probably right where they are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Oh, it must be summer when you start sleeves. It's official.
Okay, what's your,
Oh, we forgot to ask Howie about
Request for,
the money change, the money track, running us up a procedure on how we handle the
They-
money.
all right, we can
I'll talk to him.
let them know.
Request from Jason.
No? Okay, there's a letter here from Jason Johnson. It's in regards to video surveillance equipment at the jail. It was approved by the delegation. And what happens is normally we put it out for bid, we accept 3 bids. However, he is requesting that the bidding process be waived. And in order for that to be waived, all 3 commissioners have to agree to waive the bid. He has a reason for it. It's Comtech Security. They're a current vendor. They provide the service already. And what the service does is it opens and closes doors, touchscreen monitors, intercom system, and so forth. So if I could have a motion to request that the bidding process be waived in the case of upgrading the surveillance equipment, I'd appreciate it.
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those, go ahead.
I'm not in favor of handing out no bid contracts, but this is an integral part of the facility, proprietary items, and I don't see, if we go away from them, there's going to be additional costs that won't be in their bid, and I think that we should waive it in this instance for them and vote in favor of it.
Yeah, and I have also something to say. I'm also not in favor of waiving contracts, bids, but that this is a security issue. That's why I in favor of this. The people know already what is there, and they already installed equipment there.
No further discussion. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And so vote, and make sure the minutes show that it's unanimous. And you keep a copy of that? You inform Jason?
Yes, I will.
Okay, we get two last items on the agenda. One's a work session, and the other one is with Debbie Newland, who is looking for public and non-public. Debbie,
Correct.
will you want to give the public now?
Sure.
Could I have a point of order? The folks from the nursing home came back because you forgot to ask them something, so did you
Oh,
want,
I'm
so they can go on with
sorry.
their
Yes.
day, or?
Rob, thank you, Melissa, I never found it for me. When the accountant was here, he suggested that we have a written, not a policy, but a trail
Process.
and a process. We thought we'd start with you because you're the one that's over there handling the most money. Could you give us a simple money trail sometime in the next few weeks when you get a chance to how you go, who goes to the bank, who handles the money, who double checks it? And
Yes.
when your receipts come back, who does that? However you work it out, would you do that? We're gonna start with you and we'll get to the others.
You do that before you go on vacation?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that a condition of his vacation?
When's your vacation, tomorrow?
I'm only kidding.
No, I do have some suggestions for improvement too, so I think,
Well, add those too, please.
yes.
Okay. Debbie?
That's all we needed you for. We
Okay.
forgot to ask you. Thank you for coming back. Did you catch him?
No, Ed went and
Oh, thank you, Ed.
All right, this is for public.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, I'd like to note that we were able to do the accruals dump for Kronos, and it was a resounding success. There were 3 minor errors. One was with an employee who actually left the county back in January. One was an employee who was entered with an incorrect employee number, and the other error was 60 employees who had been entered into the system with incorrect holiday payroll codes. That's all been corrected.
Okay.
Excuse me, Deb, how many, 60 of them?
60.
How did 60 numbers get put in incorrectly?
I can't answer that, Commissioner, I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
The new pay rates that were provided by Kathy per the union contract that went into effect on April the 1st have all
Yep.
been entered.
Yep.
Those went in yesterday afternoon. And at this point, if Kathy may have already run the dummy file, but if she hasn't, she will be shortly. And we'll be looking for any significant errors. Barring any significant errors, we should be good to go.
Okay. Good.
You had requested that I check with the independent color press, Commissioner
right.
Babson. The independent color press is actually now the Lilac Press, located in Rochester. I did contact them and ask for a quote, and this was the emailed quote they provided.
Okay, I don't understand. I thought you were going to check with a company in Ossipee.
They were in
They
Ossipee,
moved?
they moved.
Oh, okay. So they have a different name.
That's correct. They're called the Lilac Press now. The quote that I received was similar to the others that I had requested for 100 of the folded saddle-stitched booklets. Those would have a color cover. The Lilac Press's quote is for the black and white pages. It does not have the red print that the board had requested for some of the items in the policies. And
You requested items in red?
No,
I
not at
didn't.
all.
there were some things that the commissioners had requested be highlighted in red or written in red so that they would stand out.
Who requested that?
I don't remember.
The board.
I don't remember requesting it. but-
I don't remember
I
requesting
don't
it.
remember that, so.
I think there was one item that I said something about we ought to make it really good and clear that whatever the policy was I do remember asking that, and maybe that got twisted to be printed in red, I don't know. But I don't ever remember anything specifically to be asked for printed in red, or any color than black.
I didn't. My problem with this is that this is supposed to be a thing that can be added to and changed periodically.
That's correct.
And once it goes into a binder, you're talking about a binder that would tie it all together so we can't make the changes?
The booklets are saddle stitched. They're folded and saddle stitched.
And what does that mean?
They essentially it's stapled in the middle or stitched in the middle,
Yeah.
like a booklet.
Okay.
The pages couldn't independently be removed from the booklet, but what Minuteman Press had provided, and I've asked Lilac Press if they're also able to provide this. I haven't heard back from them on it. What the Minuteman Press had told me was that when we do make changes to policies, when we do review issues down the road as legislation comes out, they have the ability of providing us with a self-adhesive page so that instead of going back through a reprint process, we can actually just have that page reprinted as a self-adhesive and stick it in there.
Okay.
And that's also why I had asked for the master copies. Instead of being stitched booklets, they're actually 3-hole punched to go into binders.
Yeah. Okay.
So it will be stitched together?
I'm not sure stitched is actually, the interpretation of stitched is actually what we assume
Stapled?
it might be. I believe it's stapled, essentially. 3 stapled down the center.
What is wrong with something like this? Where you could take out the pages and put a new one in if you wanted to?
Nothing at all.
I think this is what we should have.
I do too.
Myself. Asha, what do you think?
What was your answer, Commissioner?
Yes, this is same price as Minuteman.
And it's pretty close to what their black and white print option was. Again, that doesn't include any of the colored print for the highlighted items. But I think it's competitive. Let me be more specific. The Minuteman Press, for the 100 of the folded stapled booklets, with the color print, was $536.98. Black and white print was $344.08, as compared to the Lilac Press black and white print at $350.
So you think $6 difference?
Roughly.
If that's the case, I would go with the local one.
Don't you want to get a quote on something like that?
Yeah, I would.
I mean, I would take one of these and send it to each one of them and say, you know, how much for 100 of these?
Well,
just like it.
The thing is, I actually put those together, Commissioner. I didn't. That we bought those binders through.
I understand that, but
Staples.
why would we let them do it? Just give them this and say, this is what we want. What's the cost? If it's stitched together or stapled together, you're never going to get them apart to
Okay.
and
All right.
put it back correctly without making a mess.
Well, no, and that was.
And this way, they just undo these and pull them out and put a new one in.
So you want a quote then for loose leaf, just straight loose
Whatever,
leaf.
you know, that's why I say send it to them, because I don't know what you call it.
Sheriff, you got something to add to it?
I guess, how many pages is the booklet?
60.
Is it able to be put on CD?
Mhm.
So I was wondering, why can't each department just get a CD, copy it for each individual person, and then each department themselves take a booklet and 3-hole punch it and keep it in one of their own
Well,
binders.
that's actually the master copies that I'm looking for. Would be a 3-hole punch in a binder. So it is my intent to make sure every individual department has one of those master copies.
If you left it up to each department, I think they should do it themselves, no?
Once we get the initial one done, then we will. How's that?
How much does it cost to burn a CD? Can't be very much.
Pennies.
So what are you suggesting, Sheriff, that each department have a hard copy like this for reference?
Yes. each
And
individual
then what do you do when
CD.
someone comes in and wants to be hired? We're gonna have to have a few of these, because someone's gonna say they don't have a computer.
And they gotta sign it. Say
They
they
gotta
read it.
sign
You
it.
can do a signing page, which you would keep in wherever you keep it. So our own policies we have on CD, we issue a CD to each deputy or employee, and then they do a sign-off page that it's been reviewed and understood.
What can we do that?
Sure.
I already suggested that to do it electronically, but they say at a couple meetings ago that they need to sign it, because I think you can do it electronically.
Well, he does it electronically, and he
Yeah,
has them sign a page.
Yeah, I can ask for that when we were before the printing.
All right?
I can look into the cost of CDs, but that does raise the question of what do we do with employees who don't access the computer, whether it's because they don't have one or whether it's because they don't
Each
have a skill or
department-
comfort level.
Each department would have a copy that they could review.
But if they're coming to work here, the county has computers, so they cannot access it from here and read it.
Well,
You can go to the
some-
library, they can come here and watch it,
Some of our
they can go to
employees
their
don't have
friend's
access
house.
to the computers too. Not all of our employees have access to computers.
We should have a computer somewhere, a central computer that they can go there and have access.
Every department has a computer.
Sure, so they can come in and read it there if you got a problem.
Could I make a suggestion that perhaps the unused commissioner's computer in the business office could be used for employees if it's not going to be used by the commissioners?
What is used by the commissioners? Who said it's not used by the commissioners? We're checking our emails there.
I'm sure we get plenty of computers
Yeah.
around this place that we could put a CD in.
All right, let's see what we can get.
Get a price on
Copy like
100 of
this,
these,
yeah, for departments. And then see about a CD.
and 100 CDs, so we're comparing apples to apples. Or maybe 100 of these, and the second quote would be 100 CDs, and how many of these would we need for each department to have a copy? 10?
24,
24?
roughly 24.
Okay, so unless we want to print them out ourselves, I'd say get a quote on 24 of these and 100 CDs.
Okay, I will look into that. The next thing I'd like to just mention, 3 things I'd like to just quickly mention. The Carroll County Crusaders in the American Cancer Society's Walk of Life. So far, very, very successful. They do have a fundraiser coming up at Sunny Villa on Sunday the 21st from 8 a.m. to noon. They'll be holding their silent auction during that time with the announcement of the winners of that auction at 11. And Tim Carnes of Sunny Villa has been generous enough to agree to give us 15% of the proceeds for sales during that time. So
Is
if
that
anybody...
posted on bulletin boards throughout the complex?
I believe the captain of the relay team has been very proactive in making sure that it's posted. The Walking Trails Committee was getting ready to reconvene after the weather broke last week. However, the weather broke again, so we've had to postpone that. I'll let you know when it gets rescheduled, but just to let you know that we are going ahead with the Walking Trails Committee. And also the nursing home has a wellness walking program that they're initiating. Pedometers have been issued to all of the participants, and if anybody in the administration or any of the other facilities would like to participate, if they could contact me and let me know so that we can get pedometers to them as well.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
We want to make a change to our policy, our reference guide. And it deals with when we terminate people, that the person who is being terminated has the opportunity to say what their side of the story is. And it would be nice if it could be at the same time that the department head or whoever it is doing the termination, that they appear at the same time so we can hear both sides of the story before the commissioner, the Board of Commissioners, makes a recommendation to terminate or not to terminate.
That is actually already incorporated into
Is it in there?
into the steps to follow for the procedure. And
Is it in our handbook?
Where is it in the handbook?
the procedure is not in the handbook. The
Oh.
procedure was developed for you and for the department heads so that they would know what procedure it is that they need to follow.
Probably.
Why isn't it
Should be in here.
It should be in the policy book.
Because it's a procedure and not actually a policy.
Well,
So where can they find this then?
Well, the procedure, like I said, is not intended for the employee. The procedure is intended for the commissioners and for the department heads who are making recommendations. The steps necessary to follow that procedure are outlined in the document that I just gave you.
So the department heads, all the department heads know about this procedure?
I'm letting them know as they come forward with an issue that there's a policy and a procedure that we need to be following. These steps, as they're outlined on the document that I just gave you,
See it.
are incorporated in the policy.
See it explains it.
well, that's the problem. It says may be heard. We've got to come up with something that says the
Well,
aggrieved individual will come to a meeting, because it's going to go to court and the judge is going to say, well, did you listen to the dismissed person? No, he didn't, Judge.
Well, with all due respect, Commissioner, we can't force someone to come in to be heard. That's why it's worded the way it is.
And the last time it happened, they refused to come to a hearing.
Well, then we should have some kind of a legal document that says, I was given the opportunity, but I turned it down,
I agree.
and they sign it.
When employees are being terminated, they're provided with a copy of both the discharge and the discipline policies. And I do ask that they sign off as having received those policies so that they're aware. In a case where an employee refuses to sign, the only thing that I can do is document that they've refused to sign an acknowledgement of having received those policies.
Well, I think that we ought to have a piece of paper that states, I was given the opportunity to express my concerns about the action taken against me, and I refused to, or I chose not to sit before the commissioners and have them sign it, just so we're totally covered.
We can ask them to do that, sir. The typical individual is savvy enough to understand that if they do sign that, that's kind of the end. I think a lot of people would avoid signing a document like that. We can certainly ask them to, we can't make them.
It's just like an evaluation, performance evaluation. There's a place for them to sign saying that they have reviewed it. They may not agree with it, but a lot of them don't even sign that.
I do understand your concerns, Commissioner. That's actually why I wrote these steps. these were actually developed last summer to try and avoid unpleasant situations from arising and to try to make sure that we are adhering to our policies.
I could see a judge asking you, were you given the opportunity to go before the commissioners and tell them your side of the story, and the person saying no, and someone says, well, it was in the procedure book, did you see it? No, I didn't. Well,
We can
you
send a
signed
certified
it.
mail.
Well, you signed it, yes, I did, but I must have missed that portion of it.
You want them to send a certified mail?
I don't know, I just think there's too many loopholes, and I'm not a lawyer, but I think there's too many loopholes. If we ought to have that person say, what happens if they don't come in? Why can't we, why doesn't the case stop right there if it's part of our grievance procedure?
That's probably what will happen when it goes to the next step. They'll say, did you follow the procedure? And they say, well, we decided not to appear at their hearing. Then that
I believe it,
whatever that
you'd
group
hope
is,
that would end it, but.
that would end it. They would say, well, you've got to follow procedure. When it goes to court, that's what happened. That's what our insurance company says. If you follow the procedure, is the first question.
And truly, Commissioner, if someone is of a litigious mindset, whether or not they signed a document, whether or not they received a piece of certified mail that the county had to pay for, is not going to make a difference. As long as they continue to have review or appeals processes in place, and we do per the policies and per the state RSAs, as long as those opportunities exist, anybody of a litigious mindset is going to pursue that.
Yeah, I would suggest that we have a form that they sign or they don't sign. If they don't sign it, then you document it that a hearing was scheduled for such and such a time, or they turned it down, or have some notes in there so that we have a piece of paper saying, yes, they were given the opportunity for a hearing and chose not to sign and chose not to appear.
Yeah, I'd go along with that.
Okay?
Yep.
Sheriff, you had a comment. Go ahead.
I was just going to suggest if they're just made aware of that, they can request a hearing. An exit interview is basically what you're looking for. That would be sufficient. Again, she's correct as far as you can't force anyone to sign anything or appear before the board.
Right.
But we can, at some point in
As long as you
time,
make it available, that they know that that's available if they just request it. That's
yeah. Okay?
This is the first time that I see this, and it was written last year, you said?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, have we got anything else?
Oh,
That's all you have?
That's it.
You got something for non-public?
I do.
Okay.
You have a minute for me?
County Attorney, Robin, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I just wanted to introduce you to the new Assistant County Attorney in the office. This is Michael Brisson.
Michael,
He started Monday. I haven't had a chance to catch up with you folks.
started Monday?
Yes,
Okay.
Last
Yep.
Monday?
this Monday.
Okay.
This Monday. Yeah, we've been over in court all morning and it's been busy, so I just wanted you to have an opportunity
Thank
to
you.
say hello and.
Michael, come in and see us once in a while.
All right,
Don't be a stranger in that corner office over here,
sure.
okay?
do you have any specialty in the legal field?
Prosecuting.
Prosecuting?
Okay,
It's a
I did a year at Merrimack County Attorney's Office.
2 years?
One.
1 year, yeah. And you graduated from
UNH Law.
UNH? Wow, okay.
That should make you happy.
That's right. Not Brown, but UNH.
Right.
All right,
So that's
well, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for coming in, Robin.
you
Thank you,
later.
Michael.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to do the work sessions, or do we want
We
to?
have some minutes too.
Okay, go ahead.
Public minutes, March 27, 2013. Page 4. My statement is not there. I just want to add, let me see the.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
4.
Could we ask the clerk, I know it's not her fault, but if we're gonna go back to past minutes and start approving them, that she put them in the agenda so that we can have them and bring them up to look over. I don't have any,
Next time.
I didn't know it was coming up, so I don't have any March 28th,
either.
27th.
Well, we talked about it last week, that we're going to do it today, because I believe. we
Okay,
have-
what's your correction?
Let's go more left. I have only one thing. Let me see the first second. The fourth paragraph. Need to add, I inherited a desk with no locks.
No, what?
I inherited a desk with no locks. Needs to be added on one page, and that's it.
What does it say now, Commissioner?
Doesn't say anything. My,
She just wants to add
that
it.
my sentence is just left out.
Inherited desk without a lock.
Yeah, that is what I said. She didn't put it in.
Okay. Otherwise, the minutes are okay?
That's it, yeah?
You want to make a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion to approve the minutes of March 27, 2013 as corrected.
I have read those minutes.
I'm going to abstain.
You're going to abstain? Okay.
I read them too, but I don't, at my age, I don't remember what happens tomorrow. So I'd like to look them over again.
You'd like to table them until next week?
It's in my big notebook downstairs.
Bring them back next week. Do you have any others?
So we're not going to do this again? So we put it again for another week, because we already tabled it last week.
Yep. Do you have any others?
Yes. April 10. I see that the two commissioners talk a lot, so if you want to, do you have corrections to your statements made?
Do you have any corrections to April 10th?
Two commissioners do what?
April 10.
Yeah, but you said two commissioners something or other, I thought.
Yeah, you have, I think you have a couple of statements. Do you have corrections to your statements, what you
Oh,
said? Because
well.
I don't remember everything what you said.
Okay.
Corrections to anything in the minutes?
No, I'd rather mine.
You don't have any?
No.
Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of April 10, 2013.
And Commissioner Babson, you second it?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
And so voted. Do you have any non-public minutes?
No.
Okay. Let's see if we can catch up on the non-public minutes.
We need
and
to
at
first
least put-
find the minute taker.
And put those in the agenda for next week, so we know which ones we're talking about.
So
Anything else you
I
got?
will put in the 27th, needs to be on the agenda.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, of the non-public
March.
discussion tape recorded.
27,
Yes.
Yeah.
2013.
Frankly, I have a problem with there was somebody that wasn't here writing the minutes for a non-public session. I think it ought to be done by the clerk. If she couldn't find anybody else, that's the problem. She can write them, and at the point this person is hired to do the job, then they start writing them.
Did you get that?
Yeah, I get it, but I don't agree.
You have something you want to report on?
I have two things to report on. Last Thursday, the chiefs of the county met upstairs in this room to discuss the admission policy at the jail. I was supposed to be there with Captain Fowler, but running back and forth between the Kingswood High School sophomore American government busload of children that were here that were divided in two groups. I couldn't be in three places at once. Did the best I could. I think the kids enjoyed it. They came over here, they went to the sheriff's department and the registry of deeds, and then we switched and went to the jail and the farm. From what I could determine, they were really interested in the jail. Both sections ran overtime in the jail. That may be the best deterrent we have working for us. Their lack of knowledge for county government was alarming. Their lack of knowledge of their own state government was even more alarming. I asked them all if any of them knew who their state representative was. There were 30 kids here, and there's not one of them that could name their state representative or any one of them. And I think that's a sign of the times. I did get back upstairs between running back and forth and listen to, I gotta get the lady's name. She gave a presentation. She owns Comfort Keepers. Her last name was Smart or Snot. Well, I thought it was on here, but it isn't.
SWAT.
Oh, gee.
What was her name?
SWAT.
SWAT.
Martha SWAT.
And I think she offered a service that somehow the nursing home could use. She runs a business that, well, I guess the example that got me that pretty much tells it all. If your grandchildren are getting married, or one of your grandchildren's getting married up here, and you're in a home care situation in New Jersey or anywhere else, this organization will set up your home care if you want to bring the person up to the wedding, the hotel, if they do everything. It's in fact, in the letter that I received back from Jane Runnels, who was the county liaison, because I asked her if she'd talked to anybody at the nursing home, and she said she had, but she hadn't received a response yet. Comfort Keepers has been in business for over 8 years in Plymouth, New Hampshire area, happily serving New Hampshire and Vermont residents with services including but not limited to transportation, conversation and companionship, meal preparation, light housekeeping, errand services, range of motion exercises, medication reminders, laundry and linen washing, grooming and dressing guidance, personal care services, safety choice technology products, and respite for caregivers, respite for caregivers. And somewhere along the line, I'm sure those are some services that we might use at some time at the nursing home. So I went over and I talked to Becky about it, and they're going to contact them and at least find out what it's all about.
A little different than home health care.
Yes, it is. It is. She gave a very
They
nice
go a little
presentation.
bit further.
And it was interesting. The law enforcement part of it, I believe she said she'd been a law enforcement officer in Rochester. And somehow, I don't know what happened, but she just, I think her comment was, instead of being out of work so often, she started her own company, and she did, and she's been very successful. But they get complaints from people where elderly aren't being cared for properly. What do? So they get a hold of her, and she steps in and takes over. And, it's well worth looking into in case we need them.
Good. And you did say that the kids ended up at the nursing home, right?
Yes, yes.
For lunch?
Well, I didn't say that, but they did. They ended up for lunch. Any kind of sandwich you wanted, sliced turkey only. And, just like the Navy. And I think they had a really good time, and I think it really opened their eyes.
Both Moultonborough and Kennett will be invited to do the same thing.
I did met the students at the nursing home, and I don't believe they got a tour of the nursing home because it was time to go, but they did have a good time.
Okay.
Oh, that's true, you're right, absolutely right, Commissioner. They ran so much over. One of the things we did poorly was to manage our time, because they ran over and they got to the nursing home about 1:15, and they had to be back on the bus and headed home so that the driver could take his busload of kids to wherever they wanted to go. I wrote, when I was chairman of the Agriculture Committee, I had a young man on my committee that was 19 years old and had been elected as state representative. And so I wrote him 2 days ago to see if he'd be interested in going over to the high school and talking with me or anybody else that wanted to go and talking to the kids. I mean, it just struck me. Here are kids that were 3 or 4, maximum 4 years younger than Representative Merritt was when he got elected, and absolutely no interest in government at all. And here's a 19-year-old kid going door to door and gets elected. And what made him so interested in the system that these kids are so not interested in the system? So I'm waiting to see what happens. I used to go up with a lobbyist, Liz Murphy. And we'd go to Kennett, to Gary Millen's government classes. And invariably the first question would be, how much, to Mrs. Murphy, is how much do you pay to the representatives? That was always a question.
Yeah.
They could not fathom from everything they read in the paper that the big business wasn't paying off the representatives. And we were invited back, I think 3 or 4 years until we both couldn't make it one year. And I think they learned a lot.
Yeah. One year, Kennett couldn't get the authorization for a bus to come down here, so superintendent of the jail, the sheriff, Conway, and myself went to their class and spoke. One thing that wasn't mentioned, we give them out a booklet. It talks a paragraph about each department, about the commissioners, about the delegation, and I think from what Commissioner Babson has told me, I think when we do Moulton Borough and Kennett, that we will deliver those booklets ahead of time so that they have an opportunity to look at them, and then they'll know what they see when they get here. But you're right, it's always been a case where they know very little about county government. Whether they care or not, I don't know. Whether the teacher actually goes into what county government is all about, I don't know that either. But we're making an effort anyway. Anything else we got to report on?
Nope.
Extension Council meeting?
Oh, we had the Cooperative Extension Council meeting last night. I relayed the information that we got from the nursing home subcommittee, which basically was, I wouldn't be too hopeful if I were the Cooperative Extension about moving to Ossipee, that we have been requested to get a quote for, in exchange for a long-term lease, having somebody renovate.
Yeah, we need to explain that.
Well, you can explain that. The center section of the nursing home, and I guess that the Cooperative Extension was sort of pushed aside. They weren't going to be. They wanted to take down the front part of the building. They voted to take down support taking down 4 wings and the center section, and that's where it is.
Yeah.
And one other thing, excuse me. One other thing that the finance man for the Cooperative Extension was there last night, and he gave us some handouts. One of the things that was said by one particular representative at that meeting was that the state of New Hampshire and the university in particular have been passing the cost down to the town, down to the county, and the county's portion of Cooperative Extension has been going up while the state's contribution is going down. The fact is, in the last 4 or 5 years, there's only 1 year where the county paid more money. We're paying $5,000 or $6,000 less than we paid last year, and last year we were paying less than we paid the year before. So the fact was totally inaccurate. We have not been, the Cooperative Extension has not been paying a larger amount of money every year, and the university less, except for the one, I think it was 2009.
Okay. All right, my interpretation of the subcommittee on the old nursing home is that they took a vote and that they were going to tear down the four wings and to renovate or to improve upon the core section not to exceed $1 million. What they also said was if the commissioners wish to put out an RFP for the front portion of the old nursing home that could be used by anybody that was interested in that facility, which is about 3,000 square feet, that they would have to pay the renovation cost to renovate that portion of the old nursing home. And we would look at a long-term lease. So we will write up an RFP and get it out to the public that if there's any organizations that's looking for space, roughly 3,000 square feet, that isn't existent right now. It's where the officers were for the nursing home. And they wish to renovate it at their cost. We will look at a long-term lease for that. The back portion of the old nursing home was not going to, there was no money that was going to go into it at this point in time. They were going to put the new roof on and put in whatever petitions need to be put in when the wings were taken off. However, if Cooperative Extension wished to come down, we would consider using the money that they pay for rent now to the tune of $40,000, $43,000.
So about 43, yeah. Well, that's an inaccurate figure. It's closer to 32 because there's
utilities, right. We'd use that money to refurbish a section for Cooperative Extension, which would be in the back of the building where the dining room and the kitchen area is located. So I think that's accurate.
Is that what you got out of it, Commissioner?
So if we find no one for the front portion, that will be removed also.
That will be taken off. Yep. Anybody got any questions?
Any questions on that
Yep.
part? So the subcommittee met and they voted to make this recommendation
To the full
delegation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not to direct the commissioners to do anything.
No.
Because they don't
No.
have that authority.
No.
Has anyone said when the meeting of delegation, the next meeting will happen?
They're talking about August. There's got to be one in May, but I think the chairman of the subcommittee said that it'd come up in August.
So another year is going to go by before we do anything with the old nursing home?
Yeah.
At least another year?
Well, if they decide quickly in August, then we could find a bidder to repair the building, then they could start on it right away.
Seems like it was last summer when the last subcommittee was Umberger, McConkey, and I don't remember what, they had a recommendation, it came to the delegation and it failed.
Right.
How does this new recommendation differ from that one?
I think this one doesn't spend over $1 million to renovate a portion of the core section. And
The
this
four
one-
wings come off.
And the four wings come
front
off.
comes off unless we can find
Yeah.
somebody to renovate it.
Yep.
Is that all part of the million? The four wings, the cost of removal of the four wings, and the cost of removal of the front portion is part of that million?
I believe
I
it's
believe so.
included.
Yep.
Yes.
And the estimates are old, so does anybody know today what it's going to cost to tear down the four wings?
As one member of that subcommittee said, it could come under. In which case, he suggested that maybe the front portion could be renovated too.
I would suggest that it would probably go over.
Yeah.
And my other comment is, I don't know how long I'm gonna be a commissioner, but while I am, I don't wanna be in the real estate business.
I don't want to.
I don't wanna have a long lease and worry about somebody else's building because they renovated it, and it doesn't sound like a very sensible thing for us to be doing.
I agree, except that front section, we could get a long-term lease. What was thrown out at that meeting was the possibility of taking the wings and make them into condominiums.
But
And
that
we
didn't
could
go
get the
very
lease.
far, Mr. Chairman.
No. We're not gonna do that. So, anybody else gonna, yes?
So, sorry, I had to step out for a second, but the homeless shelter idea, is that just completely dead, pretty much?
Unless they come up with something between now and August, or at least come to the commissioners regarding it. Anybody else? Comment?
Just on this
Ed?
topic?
I just want to know, are we going to be able to have public comment on this during the work
It's
session?
a work session, we said at the beginning, when we have work sessions, we don't have public comments.
Okay, should I make a comment now?
Do we have a
No,
work session or not?
We haven't got into that yet. We haven't discussed that yet. After we discuss it, then we'll have a comment after that work session.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Melissa,
Are you taking more public comment before you go into your work session?
No.
Where are we at?
we're just talking about
Just
the
that, okay.
old nursing home.
Okay.
Okay?
Is the subcommittee gonna meet again?
Subcommittee gonna meet again?
Yeah.
I don't remember
I
setting
left,
dates.
so I don't know.
Are there minutes available of that meeting?
You have
Not
to
yet.
check with Representative Aldrin. No, it's,
Yeah, it was Chairman.
Nelson.
Nelson, yeah.
Aldrin was the chairman.
Yeah, but Nelson was taking the minutes.
Well, I checked with Aldrin to see if there was any minutes.
Okay.
They haven't
Nelson
come
was
through
taking
your
the
office.
minutes.
Nelson was taking the minutes. He's got the motions and so forth.
The meeting was videotaped, right?
What's that?
The meeting was videotaped too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it was,
So-
and
That
It'll
was
be
my
available.
Okay.
It'll be available in about 45 minutes.
oh,
Okay, then.
Thank you.
thank you.
Ed, do you remember whether they set another date? I don't. I don't believe they did.
I don't believe so.
I don't think they did, no.
Okay.
No.
Well, that's a 4-0 vote. They didn't set a date.
All right, anything else to report on? Hearing none, then let's look at the work session.
We're doing the work session now. I think Debbie's going to the non-public. She's
Yeah,
going to
but then
Wakefield. or-
everybody's got to leave. Oh, okay, wait a minute.
So what are we going to
If
do?
we want to, we can go across the hall for a non-public with Debbie. Get that out of the way and then come back and do a work session.
My suggestion would be we send Debbie back to work because she's only 20 steps away and we can come get her when we need her.
When
Okay.
we're done.
All right? All right, let's talk about the work session then. You have a list of things you want, or somebody put
I do.
together.
I get a long list.
Okay.
Let's start with this. These are just my suggestions for a policy for use of rooms at the county, and for the sake of the camera, I've got 5 points here. The organization that wants to use it would sign a liability sheet. The second one was no guns, and I can note that's not my idea.
So whose idea is that?
That doesn't make any difference. There's no guns, I don't agree with that, but that's one that was suggested to me. No admission charge unless it's going to be donated to the county. Using the using organization may be public or private.
Does that mean that it's restricted to private or public?
Youth
Means anybody.
organization, Maybe.
We all pay our taxes here, and
But I mean, if it's a-
Using organization, Republican.
Okay, if it's a private meeting,
if it's a
Then
private
nobody-
meeting,
nobody
it's a
can
private
attend.
meeting. That's right.
okay.
Public, that's what I meant by public or private. That all the fire marshal regulations are met. There is a occupancy limit on this building and on this room. And it doesn't seem to, it seems to fit everything but gatherings of people talking about bobcats. There must have been 200 people on the bobcat night in here, or 150.
In here?
Yeah, the place was packed. It was a couple of years ago.
Who sponsored that?
the fishing team.
Okay.
It was a terrific, it was an absolutely terrific performance and an explanation. And the last one is a refundable deposit. In case something gets broken, we get to keep the money to fix it. And if there's no damage, we refund the deposit.
What money what deposit, oh, so they have to make a deposit?
Yeah, $100, whatever we would decide on, and they get it back if there's no damage and the place is clean.
Is this for this building, for all buildings?
Any building on
Any
this
building.
complex.
So these are your suggestions? Is it suggestions made by other to you, or are these your suggestions?
Right
What
now,
we
they're
have
his
here?
suggestions.
All of them except number 2. And there's copies on the table if anybody wants to look at.
And number 6, you said it's $100 refundable deposit?
No, what I
Is that
said
correct?
was whatever
Whatever
amount of
we
money we
decide.
decide on.
Oh, okay.
First of all, they have to request the availability of the room,
Right,
so that ought to be number 1.
okay.
And that's done, if it's with the nursing home, then it's done with the nursing home. If it's done with this room, then it's done with our secretaries downstairs. If it's in the evening here in this building, arrangements have to be made to unlock the doors or to secure the room or something or other. And the sheriff, the dispatch can let them into the building, but not necessarily let them into this room.
Right,
They don't have keys to this room?
right.
Okay. So, under the request for availability, they need to have keys or somehow to make arrangements to get into this room.
I would think since the dispatch or the sheriff are the only people working here after dark, that it would be pretty simple with the meetings over at 10 o'clock for the sheriff's department to let them out.
Well, I think they can get out okay.
They can get out.
It's a case of getting in.
Just getting in.
Well, then we don't have to worry. Once they're out here, they can't get back in. We're all set. No. I just think somebody should, have the responsibility of making sure that maybe it's Kathy the next day that that we don't have 3 broken chairs or hole on a table or something.
I just throw this out. Could we limit the buildings that are used by the public to just a nursing home? There's plenty of meeting space over there, different size rooms. They could move, if it's a big room, they could move into a larger room down the hall.
I'll compromise with you, Dave, and say that would be fine with me if it were just a nighttime for the nursing home and this room was available during the day for anybody. Because there are people around to keep track of it.
Okay, so for this room during the day in the nursing home?
At night.
Anytime?
Yep.
It's available. Okay, you got any comments, Asha?
During the day, till 5?
Yeah.
Well, until the last person goes home here, was that 5 o'clock?
Registry of Deeds goes at 5.
Okay.
We have the sheriffs here and dispatch running 24 hours, so.
But the problem is, nobody's in here.
And thinking a little bit more about it, it really isn't the sheriff's department to be responsibility to be house mothers.
Right.
So for 5.
You agree with that, Sheriff?
Yes. Typically, we only have 2 deputies on at night, and it's a pretty big county. And probably 2 dispatchers, and it's not good that they'd have to worry about this room down, what's going on down there.
Could you use it to milk it for a couple more deputies?
I could.
Okay.
I can have one stationed here, detail tag.
One station outside the door?
No, I think your suggestion is a good one, Dave, that we have this room available during the day and the nursing home during the day if it's available, but only the nursing room at night.
Yeah. Now,
And at night to be, if we set it up and if you go with this policy, that we establish a closing time over there. You don't want them going till 11 or 12 o'clock at night.
right, 7 to 10?
We can do
6
that,
to
we can
10?
do that later. Well, any time until 10 o'clock or whenever
Okay.
they close. Or whenever,
Now, we-
whenever Howie thinks it would be a good time to have them out of there.
One little problem with the nursing home is that there's nobody at the registration desk, again, to let anybody in or out. So arrangements would have to be made with the
Yes.
nurse on schedule to make sure that it's open. Okay,
Those are all things that we can,
okay.
after we establish whether we're gonna have a policy or not, then we can tweak it. I don't think we should be loaning it out for so some organization can collect money.
Well,
That would.
I was just gonna ask the question about, let's say it's a fundraising event. They wanna use a nursing home for a fundraising event. What do we do with that?
Well, yeah, let's think about that, because the nursing home had the silent auction the other day at the chocolate sauceless dessert day.
Chocolate
And,
sauces, yeah.
And they have every right to do it, but would we, I just don't see someone being charged to come in there. We all paid for it. If you want to charge someplace, go rent a hall and do it. If you need a place to meet, but you can have your silent auction if you want, but I don't know, it's just a thought that I don't think we should be charging admission,
Okay.
unless it's going to be donated to the county.
Okay, Ash, you got any other comments?
Not at this moment.
Okay, now to the big one.
Go ahead.
Number 4, using organization may be public or private.
Give me an example of a private.
Well, I won't even go there. I'll go, my statement is, everybody in this county pays taxes towards building this place, and everybody ought to have the right to use it, and whether it's public or private, provided it's open for that evening, and they meet the other requirements.
Okay, along those same lines, let's say a Lions Club wanted to meet here on a monthly basis. Is that something in addition to this room use? That they would then want to have it every Monday night at 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock? Or is this on a...
That's a good point, first come, first served on a random basis. In other words, we wouldn't establish the second Tuesday every month for the year. We don't want somebody tying this up so that other people can't use it.
Okay. What about an outside organization, outside the county, coming in to use it to increase their membership or provide an informational meeting that might encourage taxpayers or residents of Carroll County to join?
If it's going to be used by, or going to help the Carroll County resident, let them use it.
Okay.
But they would not be high on my priority list. They'd be the bottom. If there were 3 places and 2 of them were definitely county outfits that want to use it, and then this one, I would put them third. for availability.
Okay.
Would be primarily for use for Carroll County citizens.
Well, I think I came up with some good questions.
I do too. Any more?
Not that I can think of right now.
Okay. About the refundable deposit.
Who's going to do that?
Well, Kathy can take the check and give it back. Well, there's just a very small possibility you might get two big jablokes get in a fight and throw a chair through a window. And we'd have to fix it, and we'd have to pay for it rather than chase them, we get the money. And it's a simple thing, they just write a check, and if the place is in good order, we give it back.
How much?
$50, $100.
$100?
Yeah. I don't anticipate the wool spinning group to have to
Okay.
cause a problem.
The liability sheet, do they have to show any kind of insurance policy or any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
They do? Not
Or
just
something,
signing?
I mean, we want to make sure that if somebody slips out there because Willie's gone home and hasn't had a chance to put the sand down for the last hour, and we've got an ice storm in the meantime, that we're not liable for it if they want to use our building.
So we're not liable for anything on the county complex while they're using it?
Right. Won't work, I don't think. I don't think that'll work, but.
You don't think it'll work?
The sheriff gave us a big no. Maybe he can.
What's that?
An explanation.
I don't believe that would work. I mean, it's your property, your building. I think 24 hours a day, you own the liability.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, well, let's.
But the more they use it and the more accidents that take place, our insurance rate goes up too.
I would think.
Yep.
I think we're getting into some
Yes.
some complex issues here, but
To go back at number 4, you just said organization. Is that correct?
organization, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All right, I think maybe what she's asking is
Supposed to
this
be an A in there,
individual,
too.
individual or organization?
It's just said organization.
No, I'd stick with an organization. I mean, do we want somebody coming in here selling pots and pans and having everybody from the county come in? I don't think that's the purpose of the building.
I don't think so either.
There should be an A after
Benefit to
Z,
the
by
county
way.
taxpayers, though.
My spell checking isn't working here.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Can we table this until next week?
Sure, let's
Think about
We
it?
need to
table it for 2 weeks. Let's think
And
about
we
it, see
need
if we
to
come up with any more
get the-
questions, and see if we can come up with something
maybe
that makes a
some
little,
edit-
these are
Because
just
I-
ideas.
some changes.
Because I think we need to have, when an organization comes in, they need to sign a liability sheet, which needs to be spelled out. They need to know what the fire marshal regulation is, if it's not posted on the door. Okay. We'll
Well,
table it.
another thing we ought to put in there somehow is a smoke-free campus and
That's right. No smoking, right?
no
7.
smoking. Except for your guns, right, Ed?
No drinking,
Huh?
no drinking.
No alcohol?
That's a good point.
Once was an AA meeting, we would have to.
Start with no smoking. Let's see, organization.
I've already scratched off the no guns. That's it's a law, they got a right to come in here, they got a right to come in here. And
All right. At this time, I'd open up non-public for this particular purpose.
Non-public?
I mean public, I'm sorry. Anybody got any, Sheriff?
And my thing right off the top would be that this room only be allowed for county business as far as county entities using this building. It's pretty much our meeting room.
Yeah.
And that's what it should
That's
be
good
designed for. Any businesses that want to meet, they have options to try and find a place that rent-free or rent one.
That's not bad.
That would be my own opinion. This is our building. We have nowhere else to collect. Every now and then, the chief's meeting is held here, typically held at Troop E. So I think if we have to compete for times, it could not enable the chief's meeting to meet here ever. So I want to do that.
As fine an individual as the sheriff is, I would disagree with him and say that the county activities have priority. If you're not the sheriff, you know, coming here last week, they knew 5 weeks ago they were going to be meeting here. I just think there's enough room, and to hold the room open for a county meeting that may never take place doesn't make any sense. There's certainly enough room around here. If all of a sudden they have to call, there's a disaster, then you could cancel the outside meeting or anything else. There's room for 2 or 3 people to meet.
There is a disaster committee that meets here in this room, but I would say the purpose is for the county. They're a county organization. They have the 2 trailers that are sitting over at the farm parking lot. They're emergency type things. If we have a tornado like we had before, or a flood, or some kind of a natural disaster, that group uses this room, and they've got wires up in the ceiling that they can plug in their communication system and so forth. The sheriff has a representative on there, and the commissioners.
Well, as I envision it, Dave, that would take priority over everything. I mean,
Okay.
we're going to leave here. We're going to leave here in a half an hour, and nobody's going to use this room again until who knows when.
Yeah.
Just on that point, I mean, what if you have whatever meeting and going on, and a disaster happens? This room has to go into immediate use. I mean, obviously they're going to get vacated, but
Yeah.
depending what they're doing, that could be cumbersome at best. So I think you're putting yourself in a position by opening this room up
To the public.
the public and any use, basically, and liabilities.
I do think we have at least 2, if not 3, rooms over at the nursing home that are sizable, almost this size, that there wouldn't be any problem for organizations to meet over there. But it's something to take into consideration.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Just a point of note, the town of Ossipee's public library does have a very nice room available for public use.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was looking at the Ham community rooms policy, that's in the Conway Public Library, and it seems that those events have to be open to the public. In terms of people using that meeting room for
So it's not
civic,
for
cultural, education purposes.
It's not for private use then?
Well, it is. It's for, well, yeah, if you want to define it that way. If I wanted to have a group there to talk about the news,
You couldn't restrict
then
it?
I couldn't restrict it. For whatever that's worth.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Brown?
So is number 4, is this going to be, in other words, is this going, anybody can have a private meeting that is closed to the public? Is that?
Yep.
I have a problem with that. Number one, you have the liability issue that you're not gonna be able to get away with by having someone sign a sheet. If there's a defect in something on the premises, you're going to be sued, whether they sign that or not. Number two, if you're going to allow private organizations or even businesses, a business could come forward and want to use this room for their business meetings, which is going to incur an increased cost to the taxpayers. So if you are going to allow private entities, whether they be nonprofits, businesses, or whatever, there should be a charge. Just as most places, if you want to rent their halls, they'll rent you their halls, but they're going to charge you a portion of money. So if it's not going to be open to the public, then there needs to be a fee for any private entity or business to use this space. And I would also have a problem with number 6. The example that Commissioner Babson used was $50 in case someone throws a chair through a window. You're not going to be able to get anyone to even show up for $50, never mind placing the chair or the window. And if you're going to use a private check, someone can just turn around and put a stop payment on it after the fact. And you're still going to be out the money, so you may want to consider using, you know, a certified check. And hold the certified check. If it doesn't, if no problem, then hand the certified check. But at least that way you'd be covered over a private check.
The $50, Mr. Brown, was for a very small window.
But that, my point was, you couldn't get anybody to show up for $50 to fix the little small window.
It's just 75 to show up.
And I think he's right about the additional cost. There's a cost whether it's a public meeting or a private meeting. We still have to turn the lights on. So maybe we think about an hourly rate for heat and lights that we charge. It could be minimal, but he's right, there's a cost to it.
What about a dinner meeting over at the nursing home?
But you would probably still have to pay, like, you know, maintenance or whatever to possibly clean up. I mean, there's a cost associated to all of this. I mean, I don't have a problem if it's, you know, for a public meeting for a public entity, but when you're going to start, you know, using it for, you know, private business or private groups, there's going to be costs generated by the use of whatever room it is, including, you know, maintenance. Someone's going to come in and vacuum or clean up. You know, you're paying. There's going to be additional costs to the taxpayers for doing it.
The problem I have with that, Mr. Brown, is you're right. Is you also have the same cost whether it's a public meeting or a private meeting.
Right, but
the same people in the business in the private meeting have probably paid their taxes the same as the public meeting. So I think we've got to come up with something that's fair for both parties.
Right, but when you start allowing private businesses or private entities, are they going to be saving their costs on the backs of the taxpayers? Because there are going to be additional costs generated for use of any space here on the complex, especially by a private entity.
I think he makes a good point. That's why I've got this list so that we can think about it and talk about it. And
I just, are you planning on approving this today, or just having some discussion about it? And the policy that I provided you earlier from the town of Ossipee, that one's been in effect and has been continually updated for 20 years, probably, and it's been tested, and it deals with a lot of the issues that you're talking about. So, kind of reinventing the wheel doesn't make sense.
We haven't had a chance to read it.
Daymond pointed out a policy as well, so there's probably
Did you give us each a copy, or did
no? I gave
just
one. I don't. Okay. It was the white paper that.
Is this
yep, that one.
Daymond, you're next.
Yeah. Once you open the room up, I'm asking this. I don't know what the answer is, but once you say it's open to sort of general use, can you restrict, groups that might be objectionable from coming in here? Would you have?
How do you define objectionable?
Their discretion.
Well, what I'm saying is, would it be at your discretion? Is there, if the Nazi Party of Carroll County, if there were such a thing, decided it wanted to stay here, would you have a discretion ability to say, we don't want that group here? Or if once it's open to the use of the public, any group can come in?
Yeah, probably right. What about political parties?
There's that too.
Point of order?
I don't think we should have any political parties.
Doesn't the Carroll County Democrats or the Democratic Party use space over in a nursing home already?
Presently.
You just answered your own question. What about
Well,
political parties?
Okay. I would assume that the Republican Party could use it too, or the Independent Party, or any party.
Right, but can I say, there's a good
Stage.
example. Should that be because the taxpayers are paying for that? If it's just the Democratic Party at this point? There's a cost associated with the use of that room.
No matter by who, there's a cost. You're right.
Right. So, but now as of right now, a political party is using this public space, and the political party themselves are saving the cost of a potential renting of a space like this on the backs of the taxpayers.
Yeah. I would go one step further and say that I don't think any political party could use it as their headquarters to promote their party.
But if they're having regular meetings there,
yeah, well,
that would be kind of like, more or less the headquarters.
The other way of doing it is their headquarters. That's where they really get into the politics. Somebody over here. Yes.
Possibly, the taxpayer's initial investment needs to be protected by some small sum, like the wear and tear in carpets, the depreciation on furniture and so forth. Maybe just a small sum. So if through use, the need should present itself that the carpet needs to be replaced or anything of that nature. I think everybody will be acceptable of a small charge. I mean, after all,
Yeah.
Well, we get some ideas. Let's move on, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
I'm glad I brought it up, and thanks everybody for the input, because I certainly didn't think of everything.
I have one last comment.
Go ahead. May not be the last one, but go ahead.
Well, Commissioner Babson, I know you said you're going to scratch off number 2, which is
Yeah.
no guns, not my idea. If it wasn't your idea, whose was it?
Well, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't make any
Okay,
difference.
what was the intent of the person when they offered that suggestion?
They're probably
My
opposed
guess
to
is
guns.
they don't like guns.
Well, I mean, did the person feel unsafe? Was it a safety issue? What was the?
We don't want to go there.
Doesn't make any difference, Not my idea. Well, I've scratched it off. I just put it down, and it wasn't my idea, but somebody gave me the idea, and I said
Well,
no.
they should just be reminded that just by saying no guns doesn't make you safer.
no, it makes
Because-
Let's not get into it, okay? We got your point.
This isn't a gun discussion.
Thank you.
Evaluations. What we've done with it's under work. Evaluations have gone out on 4 of the ones that we are to evaluate. The director of the nursing home, superintendent of the jail, farm supervisor, and Kathy Geary down in our office. Those right now are the 4 that we're directly responsible for. We've received back their self-evaluations. I have done evaluation on them. We are now waiting for people under them to give their evaluation of them. Once that's in, we will then discuss with the individual their performance evaluation. Another item that I had on my list, and I didn't bring my list with me today, but it was brought up earlier, and that is, we need to, what do they call it? Preamble,
Not preamble, I'll think of it.
I can't remember. But anyway, we need to go over our boundary lines and blaze them, mark them, make sure nobody's encroaching upon them.
Perambulation.
Preamble, there you go.
Perambulate.
Preambulate.
Preamble,
Towns do it periodically. Anybody got an idea how often it's done by a town?
Supposed to be every
I
10
would
years?
say 10
years.
years,
10
5 or 10
but
years,
don't
yeah.
quote me on, but I believe it's 10.
I think you're right.
And how do the towns do it, do you know? Do they
Walk.
hire somebody to come in and do it?
So,
Mr. Merrill walks it in our town.
He does?
Yeah.
You want to walk the boundary lines in county?
You know what I
Let's
was,
give him something to do.
is this something I brought up earlier? And I think Steve would know this too, this town's spending a lot of money on survey max down there. Way too much money. Can sometimes the county come in and do a survey and cut the cost down on that survey, research? They're talking about a survey, Steve. This guy pulled out a county line sign. I can't prove it, but it's been missing. Now we're gonna have to walk that, pay more money, have that, spend more money, have that survey.
I think we need to do this.
And this is,
And I think we need to hire somebody to do it.
I mean, it's a costly thing, and I'm not, you know.
Yeah. But it's only done once every 10 years or
Chip
so.
in and help the town, since it's Stratford can do something with it, as well as Carroll County.
We can talk with the commissioners in Stratford County and see that that sign gets put back up.
And find out what happened to it.
Okay.
I mean, there was an issue, like bring the newspaper clipping back up next time, and you'll
Yeah.
understand it better.
Okay, it's put on the highway, right?
And if you're going down.
It's on the highway property, though. It's on the highway property.
State highway, right?
Yeah, so they're responsible for that sign.
The state.
Yeah. But we can talk with them. The highway garage, whatever garage is responsible for that particular district. Probably Wakefield.
It's been down, I think it's been down for 7, 8 months.
We want to table that one?
Yes.
But at some point in time, we ought to do a portion of it. I know our forestry plan identifies most of the boundary lines, and that was done, well,
Peter did it
12 years
about
ago.
8 or 10 years ago, didn't
Yep,
he?
yep. So it wouldn't be that difficult to have somebody do it, but I think we ought to take the responsibility. We're responsible for the property. We need to make sure that nobody's encroaching on it, and that it's marked in cornerstone properly.
So if that county line sign was gone, there would be a stone right underneath it. If somebody took the sign, there would still be a marker right here.
I don't know that for sure. I don't know. But we need to do our county lines as well.
Too often, the Stevens, you headed up toward building lumber yard.
Okay, anything else we want to bring up under
One other thing.
work project?
I think that on long-term contracts, if we get them in and they're beyond the scope of our expertise, we ought to be reaching out to find people to help us interpret the contract. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I can give you a couple of good examples. I'm not going.
Minimum is whoever is responsible for those contracts ought to know them inside and out and be able to come in and explain them to us before we sign them.
Right.
But I believe I said in 2011 that we can go next door. That time we had Tom DeHurst here. I said we can bring the contracts to the attorney to read.
They can do it
Obvious,
legally. I think what
advice.
what Commissioner Babson is saying, that they can look at it legally, but we still have a problem whereby we are agreeing to something that is not correct. And I don't want to get into the example either, but Yes, they can review it legally.
From a legal point of view,
Legal
not
point.
from a practical point of view.
Yeah. All right,
And
anything else?
We ought to set up figure out what we're gonna do about that at some time.
Okay.
Could they, you know where I'm talking about Asha, I don't mean to go back on the other, you know where, when they headed up the middle of the lumber yard, you know the pink house?
Yes.
That's in Union, if you drive up, matter of fact, you could probably check it out. You remember Melissa County? You could probably check that out yourself, right down there.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else got anything, well, we're all done to the work
Oh,
session?
Yeah.
I have something, yeah. I'd like to talk about resignation. I think we need to have something in place if any employee voluntarily resigned, that they have to give us at least 2 weeks notice, so we have some time to fill the position.
I guess the ethics would anybody that's ethical would do that.
Do that.
That's the common
Courtesy.
procedure or courteous to give your employer a 2 weeks notice. I agree. I don't know if we can enforce that either, but
Well, I think we can ask for that. We need to have something in place, because we need to have some time to fill the position. If we put it on a website or if we put it in paper.
okay. Anything else?
I do one other thing. You and I talked about it walking over here, David. We got a problem with the drainage. What are we gonna do?
Oh,
Which
Do
training?
we call Bonnet
we
Page and
get
Stone?
on a page of stone, I guess, to look at it.
Okay.
We're talking about a drainage ditch that's over at the new nursing home that's on the far corner towards County Farm Road. It's not draining properly, the water settles in there, and it should drain through another one, go across underneath the road, finally end up down across from, basically across from the jail. We got a problem right up here where initial drainage is, that is not draining. Anything else? Seeing none, then we will move into personnel, to non-public, for, I assume it's for personal reasons.
Is there gonna be public comment?
What's that?
Is there gonna be public comment?
Okay,
after that?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
This drainage issue that you were just discussing,
Yeah.
is that covered, under the warranty of the,
We'll find that out. We'll call Bonnet Page and Stone and have them take a look at it. Whoever did the drainage, whether it's the designer, which was the one up the road here on 16, Ossipee Surveying or something.
No.
Anyway.
No, White Mountain Survey.
White Mountain Survey, but,
you would
We'll
think
check
that
it out.
that should be covered
yep.
under warranty. As far as the video surveillance over at the jail,
Yeah.
what would be the problem of putting it out to bid? Because the current company that we have would have the opportunity to bid on the project also. So why do you find it necessary to put out a no-bid contract?
Well,
I don't
number one,
understand.
it was requested by the superintendent. Number two, we want to do apples to apples and not apples to oranges if we get another company in there. Okay?
But, I mean, if you try,
Very seldom do we do this kind of a thing. In this particular case, well, we already voted on it, we agreed to it, we did it. Normally we don't.
But what would be the harm to put it out to bid, because the current company could bid on it also? And at least that way you would know where you stand. Is the current company in line with other companies that propose a bid? I mean, to have a no-bid contract, this company now knows that they're going to be the company. So instead of charging you $100, they might decide to charge you $1,000, just to use that as an example. I mean, they now have the opportunity to up the price of the job, because it's not, they haven't already put, they already put in a
They don't
price?
have the opportunity, because it's only what's in our budget that we can approve to do that. And the delegation approved that particular line item to do that.
Well,
So they
but,
can't go up any higher.
well, but they could go as high as the line item. Now.
Possible.
Well,
The
so
delegation.
instead of getting it for say half of what they could, now someone needs to let them know that this is what's in the line item, and they just come up with a proposal for the entire amount. I don't think it's a good idea to have a no bid contract.
Okay, point well taken. Anybody else get public input?
And, yeah, I got one. I would like to, especially with the amount of 91As that Melissa, the Carroll County Independent reporter put in, I would like to see those 91As that she put in. It looked like there was 10, 12 of them.
I guess they're open to anybody who wants to look at them. I think give us the opportunity to look at them first, okay?
12 for now. 12 for now. But I think
You,
she has also
already
some.
looked at them?
No.
No.
She has also some.
We just got them
to,
today.
I think she has also some that she submitted or not. Did she email some? I thought that she emailed some. Those are new.
Okay, yes?
Just one very small issue. I like the sun, I'm sure everybody else does, but it sure is blinding with those blinds magnify the light. It's very bright.
Next time ask and we'll do it. We'll tilt it, okay?
I think
I
the
didn't know.
blinds themselves do it.
What's that?
I think the light coming onto the blinds
Yeah.
is what's creating the,
Okay.
you know, the strong brightness there.
It's got nothing to do with my,
No,
Ball
no,
head.
it's not glaring off the
No,
top.
I think it's the reflection off mine to
well,
yours.
yours or me and out,
Yeah,
one of the
right.
two, Stephen.
A little bit of.
All right.
Are we
Yeah.
squared away with the social media policy? There were some concerns about it a few weeks ago. Has that settled down?
Yeah.
I think we voted to accept it.
Yep. And educational programs will be taken place by the HR assistant. Okay? All right. Seeing no further, Sheriff, you in here for, not for a good reason? Okay.
He's watching my back.
All right.
And there's a cost associated to that too, isn't there? I mean, I hate to say it, but does the sheriff have nothing better to do for 3-4 hours every Wednesday than?
Be honest with you, I'd like to see the sheriff in here. Previously, the sheriff was asked to be in here, the previous sheriff, and he wouldn't show up.
Right, but I
Okay.
mean, you know, there are criminals out there, and you know, that could be, you know.
In the case of the sheriff, he's a salary position. He doesn't even have to show up to work, because he probably won't get elected next time around. But he doesn't have to show up to work, okay? Thank you for your comments. This will conclude our work session and our public comment session. Somebody make a
I'll
motion.
make a motion, we go into non-public session for personnel reasons.
Second it. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner Babson?
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Kenney? Yes.